And we are live on YouTube. We are live on TikTok. It is week 17, the final Sunday in almost every single fantasy football league, except for the wild ones out there that go till week 18. There is a lot to get through today. Weatherman Sam has a lot to contribute today as well. Pumped to get after it. It's the fantasy football finals. We have a smaller slate of games today, too. So I should be able to go through game by game a little quicker than usual. Plenty of time to grind through the start sits as well. Let's get into it. We are about a third of the way through week 17, a strange week 17. We had 2 Christmas games, a Thursday game, then 3 games yesterday, a couple great games yesterday. The Thursday night game was absolutely terrible. Hopefully we get some more good games today, but let's start out with a banger of a game between the Jets and the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are 10-point favorites in this game. Guys, shout out to everybody in this live stream right at the beginning. We're just getting started here. We're going to go game by game, talk through every single relevant player. And every single game, we'll talk through the weather in a lot of these games. There is more games with rain today than without, and there's a bunch of really concerning wind reports out there too. We're going to get through that. We're going to talk about every single player you could possibly be considering for fantasy or for DFS. We got free player props. I got a DraftKings lineup for us today as well. And then we will get to the start sit segment of the live stream. How we doing, everyone, on this wonderful week 17 Sunday morning? It's time to go win our fantasy leagues. All right, let's get to this Jets-Bills game here. The Jets are 10-point underdogs in Buffalo in this one. The weather report in this one is noteworthy. I think we should probably just start out with the Weatherman Sam hat on, and I'll probably just wear this the whole live because this is actually probably the biggest weather slate of the season. And it starts right off with this first game. So this Jets-Bills game, likely going to have rain showers. There's a 66% chance of rain. It's going to rain. There's sustained winds, a wide range of sustained winds in this game, 8 to 23 miles an hour. Let me pull up the QB rankings here as we talk through these game-by-game situations. There's going to be wind gusts as high as 44 miles an hour in this Jets-Bills game. That is well past the concerning 25-mile-an-hour threshold. Remember, wind matters way more than rain. You can play through rain. If there's enough wind, it's really difficult to throw, and it will skew teams to run more, not only just less effective throwing, but less throwing volume on top of that. This Bills-Jets game is definitely one of those games. Davante Adams still projects really, really well, despite these wind gust projections, and these are wind gusts. This is not sustained wind over 25 miles an hour. They're still going to be able to throw, but when this wind is gusting, it's going to be really tough. It's not going to be gusting the entire game, though. That's what sustained wind is. The sustained wind here is under 25 miles an hour. So the most concerning games today, weather-wise, this is one of them. It's the Bills, Jets, and then also the Dolphins, Browns. We'll get to that later as well. So I do like Davante Adams still. The guy is getting insane target shares down the stretch of the season. He's trying to hit some career milestones. I still think this might be the end for Davante Adams. Definitely possible. It feels that way just based on the usage we're seeing. He's at least a 30% target share in 3 of his last 4 games. He hasn't had a game with less than 11 targets in 4 straight. He's getting absolutely peppered with targets every single week. Not like this Bills secondary is that scary. The Bills defense is getting a bit healthier, though. But it's probably going to be a pretty run-heavy game script from both sides with this wind gusts. Breece Hall is a must-start today. Davante Adams, I still think, is a must-start with the targets he's seeing. I don't want to start Aaron Rodgers today. And Garrett Wilson he's a risky wide receiver 3 right now. He ranks as wide receiver 17 among the receivers left. Remember, a third of the teams have already played. Pull up the wide receiver ranks here on the TikTok live. Pull up the wide receiver ranks on the YouTube live here as well. So I want to start Davante Adams still. I'm still definitely starting Breece Hall. Breece Hall is suddenly in a workhorse role again. Pretty strange, given the circumstances for the Jets, given the fact that they have two very talented young running backs, given the fact that Breece Hall was dealing with injuries. Just a few weeks ago, he goes back up to 77% of the snaps last week, had 5 catches, 38 yards, 52 rushing yards, 14 points last week. Now, back-to-back games with at least 13 points despite not scoring a touchdown last week, and the Bills are a good matchup for running backs. Could have a big receiving role again, especially with the wind projection. You got to think Breece gets up to 20 touches in this game. These are the rankings for the rest of the players this week. So any players that have already played will not be on this list. These are rankings for start-sit decisions today. So if you already played yesterday, you already played early this week, or you're out and you're injured, you're not going to be on these rankings. All right, let's get to the Bills side of this game. So the Bills are 10-point favorites. The Chiefs already locked up the 1 seed. The Bills still, I think, have some incentive to win here. There's not a ton of reason for them to push it to the limit, though. Josh Allen still projects as QB1 despite the 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts in this game, despite the rain in this game, despite not really being in a position where he needs to push it to the limit to get the 1 seed or the bye or any extreme playoff scenarios. But he's still QB1. He's still going to have a floor of at least 15 points. Last week he had 12. His worst week of the season since week 4 against the Pats. A little bit concerning, but if you have Josh Allen and you're in the fantasy football finals, you kind of just have to play Josh Allen. He only had 30 rushing yards last week. Didn't score a rushing touchdown for the first time in 5 games. Was that 5.3 yards per attempt last week versus the Pats? How many rushing attempts did he have? He had 6. It won't be that surprising to see Josh Allen and the Bills offense just scale it back a little bit in terms of the Josh Allen rushing over these last 2 games. There's just not that much of a reason to risk it with their soon-to-be MVP QB. I guess that is the main incentive pushing Josh Allen at this point, is going and locking up the MVP. And I think that MVP race is actually pretty close between him and Lamar Jackson, with how Lamar's coming on down the end of the season. If Josh Allen lets up a little bit, oftentimes MVP races, they're heavily weighted towards what people remember at the end of the season. I don't think that's how it should be, but that's how it is. So if Josh Allen continues to sputter like he did last week for a couple games and Lamar Jackson stays hot, wouldn't be shocking at all. Lamar Jackson is battling against voter fatigue at the same time. Though James Cook, he's a must start this week. Despite the limited usage volume-wise, he only played 35% of snaps last week, only had 11 carries, 3 targets. He's had 15 or fewer opportunities in 5 straight games. That's carries plus targets. And he's still smashing. In 3 of those games was a top 10 running back. He's been a top 4 running back in back-to-back weeks. He's just been insanely efficient. You do have to start him as a 10-point favorite with this weather too. You got to think James Cook has multiple chances at big plays today and probably gets over that 15 opportunity threshold too if this game stays close enough. The receivers for the Bills are basically unstartable this week. I mean, Shakir is startable in PPR, but I don't know how you could possibly trust Keon Coleman. I don't know how you could possibly trust Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper's prop lines today are in the low 20s. Please don't start Amari Cooper. And I don't want to start Keon Coleman either. I think both these guys are underrated receivers in NFL terms at the current moment and will probably have some big plays in the NFL playoffs. But Keon Coleman, he's had 1 catch in each of the last 2 games, and it's been similar for Amari. He had 1 catch last week, 0 the week before that. Both these guys have been under 5 points in 2 straight games as they lean on the run. And they lean on the receivers in the running backs in the receiving game a lot here too. Dalton Kincaid, really not a guy I want to start either. We pull up the running back rankings here. All right, that's the Bills-Jets game. Do you think the Bills take care of business here? Again, I want to start Breece Hall. I want to start Devontae Adams. I'm definitely starting Josh Allen and James Cook as well, but there's really not that many must-starts in this game. And again, there's wind gusts over 40 miles an hour projected in this game. The worst weather reports today. It's the Bills and the Jets game, and then also the Dolphins and the Browns game. We're going to get to that game as well. That's actually a late window game, so we'll get there in a bit. Let's go to the Cowboys-Eagles game next. The game that, back when we were in draft season, I was excited to stack in week 17. Doesn't seem to be coming to fruition quite with this game. This Bills-Jets game is going to be pretty ugly. This Cowboys-Eagles game is probably going to be pretty ugly as well. There's some weather in this game also. The weather report's actually improved a little bit. There's going to be some rain in this game, this Cowboys-Eagles game. There's wind gusts up to 25 miles an hour, so really not that concerning here. I don't want to start Rico Dowdle, though, against the Eagles. His volume's been good. He projects okay because of that, but this is not a good matchup for running backs. Rico Dowdle had 8 points last week versus the Bucs. The last time he played the Eagles, Rico Dowdle had 8.6 points in a game where he had 3 catches for 3 yards, 53 rushing yards. He had 12 carries in that one. He only had 13 carries last week. The Cowboys are 7.5-point underdogs in this game, despite Jalen Hurts being out. We have not seen very many good running back performances versus the Eagles. This is like near the Chiefs type run defense here. Chuba Hubbard did well. Derrick Henry had an okay game. He only had 14 points, though. We've seen one running back this entire season go over 20 points versus the Eagles. I doubt Rico Dowdle is going to be the second running back to do that today. So really there's no CeeDee Lamb today too. He's shut down. This whole offense should be benched. Please bench every single member of the Dallas Cowboys today, unless you have Brandon Aubrey or Jake Ferguson. Jake Ferguson's startable here too, especially in PPR leagues. He had 6 catches last week. He had a 27% target share, 9 targets. He could easily lead this team in targets. I think he probably will lead this team in targets today. All these wide receivers, they're just desperation sleepers at this point. Good luck guessing which of these guys is going to out-target the rest. Brandon Cook's definitely not reliable. We're going to get to that Dolphins game, but there's severely bad wind in that Dolphins-Browns game to the point where I'm not convinced either team's going to be able to pass very much. That's why I'm very nervous about Tyreek Hill, very nervous about Jonnu Smith as well. All right, let's go back to the wide receiver ranks here so you can see some of the guys I'd say you start them over. All right, that's the Cowboy side of this game. So the Eagles, they're without Jalen Hurts. Saquon Barkley is within striking distance, less than 300 yards away from breaking the all-time rushing record. And he's going to have a good chance to get pretty close to that today. Should get at least 20 carries in this game. They're 7.5-point favorites. The Eagles do still have reasons to push it here for getting better seeding in the NFL playoffs. Saquon had 150 rushing yards last week, 29 carries in that game. He could go over 25 carries in this game, could definitely get to 150-plus rushing yards as well. Saquon's obviously a must-start. This is a very good matchup for Saquon versus this Cowboys defense. These two teams have already played. They played back in Week 10. Saquon didn't have a great game in that one. He only played 51% of the snaps. I think he might have got dinged up in that game. That was back in Week 10. But Saquon's a smash start today. A.J. Brown still needs to be started, even with Kenny Pickett starting, even with the Eagles projected to win by a lot, even with rain projected in this game and some borderline concerning wind gusts. I'm really not that concerned about the weather in this Cowboys-Eagles game like I am some of the other games today. But yeah, A.J. Brown's a must-start here in the fantasy football finals. Nobody's mentioning A.J. Brown in the finals. And last week, guys, I think this might have been – I don't think I've seen this since I started doing this 4 or 5 years ago. Last week, there was a 60% target share for A.J. Brown and a 32% target share for Devontae Smith. 92% of the targets last week went to Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown. I mean, that is absolutely incredible. You do not see that in the NFL. Talk about a consolidated target share. Really wild. Guys, if you're watching live on YouTube, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button. It is, for most leagues, this is the last Sunday morning live of the fantasy season, Fantasy Football Championship. I will be live next Sunday to talk through the slate. We'll probably do a little bit more DFS and prop analysis next week. I know there'll be some crazy people with Week 18 finals as well, but smash the like button. Do appreciate everyone that's in here on this Week 17 Sunday morning. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, they're not going to account for 92% of the targets again, but they could get pretty close. I think they go over half the targets to these two guys based on what we saw last week. Kenny Pickett knows what his job is, and his job is to get the ball to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith as much as humanly possible. So both of them need to be started, really, in almost every single fantasy league, despite Kenny Pickett starting, despite the weather in this game. And that's it. That's really it for fantasy. You're starting the top 3 guys. It's very straightforward, I think, on the Eagles side. Start Saquon, start A.J. Brown, start Devontae Smith. Tua is not playing. Nope, Tua is out. Tua is out today. We're going to get to that Dolphins game. Lots to talk through in that Dolphins game. Anthony Richardson's also out. That has massive implications. Let's go to that Colts-Giants game, actually, because the Colts offense is going to be entirely different today. There's no Anthony Richardson, and we've seen this throughout the season multiple times now. This is not the first time this season where Anthony Richardson's not playing. This is very, very good for the rest of the offense for fantasy football specifically. Very good for Jonathan Taylor. He's going to get more receiving work with Joe Flacco. He's getting almost no targets with Anthony Richardson. He's a top 5 option. You could argue Jonathan Taylor should be the running back 1 this week in the running back ranks. There's some other really good options, which is why he ranks as running back 4. But he's right up there in tier 1. Right up there in tier 1 with Bucky Irving, Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon, Bijan. JT had an incredible week last week. One of the best fantasy football weeks of the season. He had 40 fantasy points last week, 218 rushing yards, 3 TDs. But he didn't have a single catch. He has 1 catch in his last 2 games. That's what changes a bit with Joe Flacco. Should go over 1 reception today. Obviously, a great matchup here versus the Giants. The Colts are 7.5-point favorites with Joe Flacco starting at QB in New York. And there's really not much weather to report here. There's likely going to be some rain in this game, but absolutely no wind. Not concerned about the weather at all in this one. Josh Downs is suddenly a must start. Michael Pittman is a significantly better option too. I think if you have Josh Downs, you pretty much have to play him. Josh Downs was frequently a top 12 wide receiver with Joe Flacco playing. Earlier this season, 22 points, 16 points, 20 points, 22 points. He really only had 1 bad game, I think, in there with Joe Flacco. He's had some good games with Anthony Richardson too, but the pass volume definitely goes up. The target quality goes up. Anthony Richardson's guys, he's completing less than 50% of his passes this season. It's hard to be worse than that from an accuracy standpoint, a completion percentage standpoint. So Josh Downs is definitely a good start today versus the Giants. I do want to start Josh Downs if I can. Don't hate him in DFS today either. So Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, and JT, all borderline must starts. JT is a must start. I would put Josh Downs in the must start territory today too, and I put Pittman in the good start territory. Definitely like the Colts defense too. The Falcons defense got me to 4 fantasy football championships last week. I'm right in the back with the Colts defense versus the Giants today. All right, we talked through the Colts side of this game. Let's go to the Giants now. I do think you want to start Malik Neighbors today. Malik Neighbors is playing. It's not an amazing matchup, but the target volume is there. The floor is there for Malik Neighbors. We haven't seen him go under 10 points since week 7. He's going to lead the NFL in targets this season, even if he gets almost no targets in these last 2 games. But he's the entire offense. Malik Neighbors is the entire New York Giants offense. Drew Lock is starting again today. He's capable enough to get Neighbors to at least a 12-point floor, but there's still a ceiling here with Neighbors, with the talent profile. Tyrone Tracy, I'm pretty nervous to start Tracy this week. The matchup's not bad. He had 17 points last week, 4 catches, 43 yards, had a good receiving touchdown. He only had 26 rushing yards, though. He's got 57 rushing yards over his last 2 combined games. It's a better matchup for him this week. But Devin Singletary's mixing in a lot, and he's had fumble issues. Tyrone Tracy doesn't seem like he has the complete trust to be this workhorse running back. Obviously, the team's not good, which lowers his touchdown ceiling as well. So he's an okay start. Definitely not in the must-start territory. I wouldn't even call him a good start, but he's startable in certain situations. So you're starting Malik Neighbors, and maybe you can start Tracy. That's it, though, from this team. Don't start Wan'Dale Robinson in your fantasy football finals. Definitely not starting Drew Lock. Not starting the Giants defense against Joe Flacco. Singletary's obviously well off the radar. All right, that's the Giants-Colts game. I do think the Colts take care of business here. They do need to win this game to keep their playoff hopes alive. Let's go to the next game here, a game that I'm personally very excited for. And this is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home versus the Carolina Panthers. This game has some weather to report as well. Let me pull that up here. There's going to be rain in this game as well. Rain in almost every single outdoor game today. The window in this one's not that bad, but there will be some rain here between the Buccaneers and the Carolina Panthers. The Buccaneers need to win. This is a playoff game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They lose, they are effectively out of the NFL playoffs. They win, and they have a very good shot. I think over a 50% chance at the NFL playoffs if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers win. You cannot bench Bucky Irving today. I don't think there's going to be a single question today where I tell someone to bench Bucky Irving. Unless you have Saquon Barkley and Jahmyr Gibbs somehow both on your team, then you're starting Bucky Irving. This is an absolutely amazing spot for him. He gets the Carolina Panthers. They're dead last against running backs this season, allowing the most fantasy points per game to running backs. And that's not even, sometimes at this point in the season-long numbers can be a bit misleading. But that's not even just, from earlier in the season. That's all season long, including the last several weeks. Last week, James Conner went for 117 rushing yards, also had 49 receiving yards. He had 26 fantasy points. The week before that, Rico Dowdle had 150 rushing yards. The week before that, Saquon Barkley had 124 rushing yards. And then the week before that, it was Bucky Irving against the Panthers. He was the running back one that week, 27.5 points the last time he played the Carolina Panthers. So, yeah, we're starting Bucky Irving with a ton of confidence today. I like his props today, too. A little teaser there for one of the free player props. But Bucky Irving is going to have success on the ground today. There's also some comments from Todd Bowles this week, the coach for the Buccaneers, about Rachaad White's fumble last week and how that's unacceptable and how it sounds like they're pretty ticked off at Rachaad White. Wouldn't be shocking to see even more work than usual for Bucky Irving as a result of that. He had 57% of the snaps last week. That was actually his most he's had since week 6. And I think we could see that continue to build as he gets further away from some of these injuries that were slowing him down just a couple of weeks ago. And we get closer to playoff mode for the Bucs, and with the Rachaad White fumble stuff going on too. Rachaad White's an okay start today. I don't feel nearly as confident about Rachaad White, though, with some of the comments from the coaching staff. It doesn't seem like a lock. Rachaad White gets more than 10 touches today. And it's definitely a lock for Bucky Irving. Mike Evans absolutely needs to be started. Mike Evans is in the hunt still for his, I think it's 13th, 12th, 11th. It's some ridiculous number straight season with 1,000 receiving yards. He's set to break the NFL all-time record for most consecutive seasons with 1,000 receiving yards. He needs to get like 90-ish a game in his last 2 games here. And it's going to come with like 1 200-yard game. It could easily be this week, despite the rain in this game. Doesn't scare me at all with Mike Evans. He projects as a top 5 wide receiver. You're absolutely starting Mike Evans. So we're starting Bucky Irving. We're starting Mike Evans. Rachaad White's an okay start. I know there's going to be some Jalen McMillan questions today. Jalen McMillan has been balling. We've been on it. Over the last 3 weeks, he's had at least 16.5 points in 3 straight games, been a top 20 wide receiver in 3 straight games. He's got at least 4 catches and 55 yards and a touchdown in 3 consecutive games. I don't think he's a must start today, though. It depends, obviously, 2 sides to every single start sit, as you guys know. Not a must start today, but he's startable for sure. Definitely startable. He's as one of the hottest wide receivers in the NFL right now. All right, that's the Buccaneers side of the game. So Bucky Irving's a must start. Baker Mayfield didn't touch on him, but he's a must start too. There's only 2 quarterbacks left this week that I'm starting over Baker Mayfield. It's Josh Allen and Jaden Daniels. That's it. Then it's Baker. And Baker's right up in that tier with them, too. A lot of the best quarterbacks have already played this week. I don't hate Darnold and Jordan Love today either. But then there's a pretty steep drop-off suddenly to Brock Purdy, Bryce Young, Jared Goff, some guys that I don't think you should feel great about. All right, on to the Panther side of the ball. Speaking of Bryce Young, he is startable depending on what your quarterback situation is. Tua's out. There's some difficult QB spots with Anthony Richardson out, Jalen Hurts out as well. Bryce Young, last time he played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he had 24 fantasy points. He was a top 8 QB, almost had 300 passing yards. Last week, Bryce Young was the QB2. He had 27 points last week, 68 rushing yards and a touchdown. Bryce Young I think he's leading the NFL now in consecutive games for the touchdown, or he's up there. He's had 8 straight games with a passing touchdown now. Like, Bryce Young's really suddenly coming on down the stretch here. A very promising sign for the Carolina Panthers. Yeah, he's startable here versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're getting a little healthier in the secondary, but still startable. Adam Thielen is a borderline must start here versus the Bucs. He's had a pretty solid floor for the past month. Hasn't been under 10 points once. Hasn't had a game with less than 5 catches. He popped off the last time he played the Buccaneers as well. Had 24 points in that game. Jalen Coker is an interesting sleeper. I don't want to start Leggett. I don't want to start David Moore. Leggett is back, which puts David Moore onto the fantasy football waiver wire. And then Chuba Hubbard's also out in this game. No Chuba Hubbard for the rest of the season. That means we got Mike Boone and Raheem Blackshear. I don't want to start either of these guys. I really, really don't want to start either of these guys. I'd put these guys both in the must bench category if you can. Both these guys have basically no floor. I mean, the floor is close to 0 points for both of them. Really tough to say which of these two guys is going to get more work. It's probably going to be a pretty even split. They're probably going to call up a third guy from the practice squad that nobody's ever heard of, and he's going to get some touches as well. It seems like Miles Sanders, I haven't been able to find official confirmation of this, but Miles Sanders is not going to play. He hasn't played since week 10. He's been dealing with an ankle sprain, and he's still on IR technically. I think they could technically take him off IR and make him active for this game, but that doesn't seem expected. So I don't think Miles Sanders is going to play. Nonetheless, I want to stay away from this backfield here in Week 17 in the Fantasy Football Finals. I do not want my Fantasy Football Finals riding on Mike Boone or Raheem Blackshear. No, thank you. I'm down to ride with Adam Thielen, though, and Bryce Young if I need to. I do think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers take care of business here, too. Of all the teams this week, I would be most surprised if the Buccaneers lost, with the environment in this game being a playoff game for the Bucs. I know the Panthers have had a lot of close games. The spread has moved closer and closer to the Buccaneers' favor. They're 9.5-point favorites now. I think this opened at like 6 or 7. So far, we've gone through 4 games with massive spreads. The Jets are 10-point underdogs. Wouldn't be shocking to me if that game stays within 10, but the Bills should take care of business there. The Cowboys are 7.5-point underdogs. That feels like a lot to give to Kenny Pickett, but the Eagles' rushing attack should have a lot of success today. And there's going to be some rain in all of these games. Every single game we talked about. The Colts-Giants game, the Colts are 7.5-point favorites. Do you think the Colts take care of business versus the Giants? Feels like a lot of points to give to Joe Flacco there as well, but I think I would take the Colts 7.5 still. And then the Buccaneers are their 9.5-point favorites versus the Carolina Panthers. All right, that's the Buccaneers-Panthers game. Let's go to the Raiders and Saints. This is a banger of a football game here between Aiden O'Connell and Spencer Rattler here in Week 17. There is some fantasy football relevance in this game, though. Brock Bowers, he's on pace to break the all-time rookie receptions record. He's been on pace for this for a while, like over a month. We've been talking about how Brock Bowers, I'll pull up the tight end ranks here because Brock Bowers really kind of in his tier of his own, but I put Kittle in that tier 1 with him this week for the tight ends left at least. McBride finally scored last night. That was good to see. He was certainly in tier 1 this week as well. But Brock Bowers is on pace to break the all-time rookie receptions record for all players, all positions. Puka Nacua set this record last year. And when Puka Nacua set this record last year, I did not think we would be talking about this record again for quite some time. Nonetheless, for a tight end, I think he needs 5 more catches. Something ridiculous like that. Like he's going to hit it. Maybe this week. Brock Bowers is going to surpass multiple significant milestones this week in all-time rookie history. Truly incredible rookie season he's having. Brock Bowers is a generational talent for sure. Tight end 1 this week. Obviously a must start. Jacoby Myers was a big letdown last week in a good spot versus the Jags. Only had 2 catches for 41 yards. He's a good start again, though. I'm not going to be scared off Jacoby Myers this week. He has had a really consistent role. He's playing over 90% of the snaps. The target share was disappointing last week, only 13.5%, but he'd been over that in 6 straight games before this. Really, that was his lowest target share since week 1. No reason to think his target share stays that low here in week 17. This is also one of the few dome games of the week. All these other games, there's significant rain and or significant wind. Basically, every single game outside the Raiders and Saints and the Packers and Vikings today, you're going to see rain or significant wind and or significant wind. But the Packers, Vikings, the Raiders, Saints, they get to play in a dome. Big benefit, I think, here in week 17 with the weather across the league. So I want to start Jacoby Myers. I don't think he's in must-start territory, but I'd call him a very good start for sure. And then Alexander Madison and Amir Abdullah, they're in play today. This Saints defense has been awful against running backs. Abdullah, he's getting a lot of the receiving work. But Madison, I think, is the better shot to score a touchdown. I would play Madison over Abdullah if I had to make that call straight up. Madison played 57% of the snaps last week and scored the rushing touchdown last week. Abdullah's receiving role has been incredible, though. He's had back-to-back games with at least 19 points, 12 catches for over 100 yards and a touchdown in the receiving game for Amir Abdullah the last 2 weeks. So at least one of these running backs will probably have a decent game, and both are startable in PPR leagues for sure. I don't want to start Aiden O'Connell, though, at all. All right, the Saints side of this game, I mean, this has got to be one of the most ravaged teams of NFL history. Again this week, no Derek Carr, no Chris Olave. Chris Olave practiced. He was a full participant multiple days this week, still not going to play. No Alvin Kamara. No Taysom Hill. No Rashid Shaheed. I mean, they're all of their best players. No, I think Scantling is actually playing this week. Scantling was out So they got some help back this week. Scantling was out last week. He's back this week. Their best receiver left. No reason to have any faith, though, in this Saints offense. And these running backs, similar to the Panthers running backs with Mike Boone and Raheem Blackshear. You can't trust any of these guys because it's a three-way committee. We were on this last week. We weren't getting out ahead of our skis with Kendre Miller, and that was a good call. Kendre Miller had 5 points last week. He only played 39% of the snaps after playing 47%. Jordan Mims actually led the backfield in snaps, and he did okay. He had 8 points. He had 5 catches, 44% of snaps. Jamal Williams, they're still going to mix in. You can't start any of these running backs. The Raiders defense is definitely a pretty good option here as well. I do like Chig to score today, yeah. Let's get to that game next. So let's go to the Titans game. So I do think the Raiders win, by the way. They're only 2-point favorites. Spencer Rattler is only a 2-point underdog with Marquez Valdez-Scantling as his top receiver. I mean, come on. I do like the Raiders to win that game. All right, the Titans and the Raiders, I think, are very incentivized to lose, too. Let me pull up the draft order here. They've already come out publicly and said they don't care about the draft order. Pats did a great job losing yesterday. The Giants, I'm praying as a Pats fan, I'm never going to root harder for the Giants than I am today to beat the Colts. I think that would leapfrog the Pats into the number 1 pick, or at least give them a shot at it. Yeah, the Raiders have a ton of incentive to lose today. They're tied with a bunch of teams for picks 3 through 6. Right now they're at pick 6. If they were to win today, they'd fall all the way down to like pick 10. Maybe further than that. But they're favorites today. And the Saints, they can leapfrog up into the top 10 if they lose today. A lot of NFL draft order implications in these last couple of weeks for these teams out of the playoffs. All right, let's go to the Titans-Jags game. A lot of reason to be excited about these two games. Yeah, Chig going off today. I'm very in on Chig Okonkwo at this point. I'm mad at myself for not being in on him sooner, like last week. The role has been incredible for Chig Okonkwo. There's no denying the role right now. His snap share has risen. He had his highest snap share of the season. Last week, he played 85% of the snaps. We've never seen Chig in a role like that. He ran a route in over 80% of the passing plays last week. We've never seen that this whole season. He had his highest target share of the season. On top of that, so not only was he playing more, he was getting the ball more, 33% of the targets. He's back-to-back games over 25% of the Titans' targets. And it's not like he got a bad matchup today. He gets the Jags. And he played the Jags back in week 14. He only had 3 catches for 8 yards in that game. That does give me some fear with Chig. I don't think Chig is this like mortal lock to go over 15 fantasy points. We've seen him have a floor over the course of the season just 3 weeks ago versus this same defense. But the role has been so good the last couple of weeks. There's really not many tight ends I'm starting over Chig that are left this week. I think TJ Hawkinson versus Chig Okonkwo is really, really close. I got to make that exact call in one of my fantasy leagues. And since I'm already winning by a lot, I think I'm going to go Hawkinson there. But I think Hawkinson versus Chig is a floor-ceiling decision where Hawkinson's floor is a lot safer. He gets the dome game, too. There is going to be rain in this Titans-Jags game, too. And there's some speculation, actually, this Titans-Jags game could get delayed because of lightning. Definite thunderstorms projected in this Titans-Jags game. This is likely to get delayed based on what I'm seeing, the latest report. That would actually be good for all the fantasy players in this game because if it gets delayed, they're going to miss the worst part of the weather, the worst part of the rain. There's wind gusts up to 21 miles an hour here, so the wind gusts aren't super concerning. There's going to be rain, and there's also going to be thunder and lightning, so we might get a delay in this Jags-Titans game. The Buccaneers-Panthers game also has a chance at a delay for a similar type of weather. Definite thunderstorms projected in that game. There's going to be sustained winds around 15 miles an hour. None of that's great for Chig, but the weather report's way worse for that Dolphins game. We're going to get to that game next. So I would play Chig over Johnny Smith, yeah. I think Johnny Smith is a bench if you can bench him. Even though Johnny Smith's obviously been way better this season. So yeah, it's a knockdown for this whole passing attack a little bit, this weather report. Spears is going to absolutely smash, though, guys. Tajay Spears is the answer to the test today. In almost all situations, start Tajay Spears. I know we're going to get a bunch of Tajay Spears questions. Already seen a bunch of them in the comments. We're going to get to the start segment live very soon. By the way, we're almost through every game. There's not that many games left this week in comparison to most Sundays. Only got 3 more games to talk through after this Titans-Jags game. But Tajay Spears is a league winner, guys. He's a fantasy football league winner. He already has been. He already got a lot of people to the finals, people brave enough to play him. And every week you should be more and more confident to play Tajay Spears. Back-to-back games over 21 fantasy points for Tajay Spears. Let's go to the running back ranks here again. I'll go to the wide receivers next, seeing some people ask for that. By the way, if you're watching live on TikTok, guys, I can't see your comments unless you're following. So smash the follow button. you're watching live on YouTube, guys, hit the like button. Do appreciate that. The best way you guys could possibly support me, by the way, here towards the end of the season, we do have a end of season discount going on in the Walter Picks app. If you've ever been on the fence about doing the Walter Picks app subscription, you can lock in the only discount we do all year that will go through next fantasy season, this entire offseason. You get, depending on which subscription you do, you get all the prop insights at a significant discount for your first year. Check that out in the Walter Picks app. Use code SAM when you sign up. But yeah, Tajay Spears is a smash today. He gets an amazing matchup versus the Jags. There's no Tony Pollard today. Pollard is out. Tony Pollard's been playing these last 2 games, and Spears has still been smashing. We're going to see a season-high snap percentage for Spears today. We're going to see likely a season-high touch total for Spears today. He's had 11 targets in his last 2 games. He's one of the most efficient receiving backs in the NFL. He's got a great matchup, and he should have a great role. Spears is a top 10 running back, but definitely a must-start today. So I want to start Spears. I do want to start Chig. Ridley is startable here in this revenge game. Didn't do great in the revenge game last time versus the Jags. Don't think that was with Mason Rudolph under helm. We're going to see Mason Rudolph play again today. I do think that's better for Calvin Ridley, but he's really not a must-start in this spot versus the Jags. On the Jaguar side of the ball, Brian Thomas Jr. is an absolute must-start at this point. You cannot bench Brian Thomas Jr. regardless of matchup, regardless of situation, regardless of who his quarterback is. Brian Thomas Jr. is absolutely smashing down the stretch. Another league winner here. He's been over a 32% target share in 3 straight games. Hasn't gone under 10 targets in 4 consecutive games. These look like Devontae Adams type numbers. Targets-wise, he's doing more with the targets, though, than even Devontae Adams has done. He's a top 4 wide receiver in back-to-back weeks. He had 16 points versus the Titans just a few weeks back. 8 catches, 86 yards in that game. So, yeah, we're starting Brian Thomas Jr. and bench basically everybody else in this team. I don't want to start ETN or Bigsby. They're both splitting a role here. Makes them really tough for fantasy. 5 points for ETN. Last week, he played 52% of snaps, had 42% of the carries, and an 8% target share. I mean, they're splitting it like firmly down the middle here. Bigsby scored. He still only had 10 points. He only played 28% of snaps. Last week, Tank Bigsby, he had a 57% rush share, only 1 target. Was Dearness Johnson playing? He played 20% of snaps too, and stole 2 of the targets. I mean, absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible stuff here in the backfield for fantasy. I do not want to start these guys. Travis Etienne or Tank Bigsby. Not a great matchup for them either. All right, let's get to this Dolphins-Browns game. 4 more games to talk to. Dolphins-Browns, Packers, Vikings, Falcons, Commanders, and then we'll get to the Monday night game, Lions and 49ers. This Dolphins-Browns game has, I think, the worst weather report of the week. So Bills-Jets was pretty bad. There was wind gusts over 40 miles an hour projected in that game. The latest in this Dolphins-Browns game is wind gusts as high as 51 miles an hour. Sustained wind from 20 to 28 miles an hour. There's sustained winds, guys, in this Dolphins-Browns game over the 25 mile an hour concerning threshold. Like, this actually might be the most concerning weather report we've seen all season in terms of expecting a lot less points in this game due to the weather. On top of that, there's likely going to be some rain showers. There could be some thunderstorms. There's a delay in this game would actually, I think, be good. A good outcome because the weather should get better as the game goes on. The wind actually looks like it might be picking up as the game goes on, though. It's going to be really tough to throw in this game, guys, between the Dolphins and the Browns. That's part of the reason I have Tyreek Hill in the must-bench category if you can. I'd prefer not to start Tyreek Hill today in the fantasy football finals. I'm starting Josh Downs over Tyreek Hill. I don't think that's crazy. I would start Tajay Spears over Tyreek Hill easily. I'd start Jacoby Myers over Tyreek Hill, Adam Thielen over Tyreek Hill. Devon Achane still a must-start in this game, but this game's going to be tough to score if both defenses know you can't throw. It makes me like both these defenses a decent bit too, but over 50 mile an hour wind gusts projected in this game. So Achane's a must-start. Tyreek Hill is not a must-start. Jonnu Smith is not a must-start in this game. I would start Chig Okonkwo over Jonnu Smith. And maybe some of this short pass game actually is not a bad thing for Jonnu Smith. They're forced to throw the ball short with his weather report. But I don't think Jonnu Smith's a must-start this week with this weather. Jalen Waddle is confirmed out again. And Tua is out today too. So we got Tyler Huntley under center. We saw how this went for the Dolphins earlier this season. When Tua was out earlier this season, I think he missed, 3 or 4 games with that head injury earlier this season. The Dolphins were instantly the worst offense in the NFL. Like, they were one of the worst offenses in the NFL instantly. It was ugly. No reason to expect that to be any better today with this weather, with Tyler Huntley under center, and not the easiest matchup here versus the Browns defense. They haven't been amazing this season, but they do have a good defensive line. On the Browns side of this game, Jerome Ford, he's startable here for sure. The role has been much better than I expected for Jerome Ford. He had 18 points versus the Chiefs. That was super impressive. He had 24 points last week versus the Bengals. He played 80% of snaps. That was his highest of the season, an 80% snap share. He only had 45% of the carries. Deontay Foreman stole a touchdown, and he was mixing in on the ground too, and Pierre Strong was playing too. But yeah, Jerome Ford's startable here. Not an amazing matchup versus the Dolphins, not a terrible one either. This game is going to skew very run-heavy. And Dorian Thompson-Robinson is not good. He cannot throw. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is one of the least effective passing quarterbacks in the entire NFL right now. He had 4.6 yards per attempt last week. He's at 3.8 yards per attempt this season. 3.8 yards per attempt is absolutely abysmal. That's lower than some of the best running backs get per carry. I mean, it's incredibly bad. And then you throw on top of that, the Dolphins have been the number one defense versus quarterbacks this season. You throw on top of that, there could be 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts in this game. And, oh, my God, Dorian Thompson-Robinson is going to struggle here. And it makes Jerry Jeudy almost unstartable. Almost unstartable. Jerry Jeudy, who's been one of the best wide receivers in the NFL down the stretch here. Really wish we got a couple more Jameis Winston games in for Jerry Jeudy. He only had 4 points last week. 2 catches, 20 yards, despite playing 90% of the snaps. Only a 10% target share. David Njoku's out again, though, this week. David Njoku got a lot of the targets last week. But there's just no reason to expect success in the passing game here for the Browns. I want to bench Jeudy if I can. I played Marvin Harrison Jr. over him in one of my finals matchups last night. Obviously feeling good about that decision now. But Elijah Moore, Jerry Jeudy, this entire passing attack, Jerome Ford is the only guy you should really be considering playing here. This game is projected to be pretty close. A 3-point spread here between Dorian Thompson-Robinson and Tyler Snoop Huntley. Yikes, man. We got some great football coming on our TV screens in just a few hours. All right, we got one more late window game. There's only 2 late window games today. This is one of them, the Dolphins-Browns game, and a game that should have 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts and heavy rain. The Packers-Vikings game, though, we're in a dome in this one. This is going to be the best game of the week. This game is the best game of the week. The Packers and Vikings, this game's projected to be extremely high scoring. This game's in a dome between 2 potential Super Bowl teams. The NFC is wide open. I think from my perspective, the AFC, there's really only 3 teams that are going to be in the Super Bowl from the AFC. It's the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Ravens. That's it. End of list. I'd be shocked if one of those 3 teams wasn't in the Super Bowl from the AFC. From the NFC, that list is much longer, man. I think there's 6 or 7 teams realistically that could get in from the NFC. Packers and Vikings are definitely 2 of those. The Vikings have a shot at the number 1 overall seed in the bye. A lot to play here for a lot of reason to play here for the Vikings. The Packers have a lot to Looks like we might be back. Weatherman Sam dealing with his own weather issues today. Let's see if we get the TikTok live back here. I think we're back. Let me know in the chat, guys. Are we back? Chat, are we back? Weatherman Sam dealing with his own wind gusts affecting the Wi-Fi today. Looks like we're back. Back. Let's go, Matt. Appreciate you. Appreciate you guys sticking around here as Weatherman Sam battles his own win gusts today. I actually thought for a while this Dolphins-Browns game was in Miami. I woke up this morning, I was like, this weather's not that bad in South Florida. And then realized, oh, no, it's in Cleveland. But there's bad weather here in Miami too. Across the country, really. We're dealing with rain and wind gusts today. Right as I was getting excited about this Packers-Vikings game here as well, let's switch back over to the wide receiver ranks here. So let's talk through this Packers-Vikings game again. I think this is probably the best game of the week. We got a 1-point spread here. The Vikings are 1-point favorites at home. We've already seen these two teams play each other as well, and it was a very, very good game. It was the best game of the season for Jordan Love. He had 31 fantasy points, 389 pass yards, and 4 TDs. There's no Christian Watson today, which makes this a much better situation for fantasy with these receivers. Jaden Reed is definitely startable. Romeo Doubs is startable. And Dontavian Wicks is an interesting sleeper as well, for sure. I like all of these receivers today. Tucker Kraft is definitely in play. I saw someone in TikTok Live as my internet was going out saying, no, I'm playing Johnny Smith over Chig. I mean, I personally would rather not play tight end in a game with 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts with a backup QB. No thanks for me. I would rather play the guy with no wind gusts in a rainy game who's been over 15 points back-to-back games. So Josh Jacobs, this is not a good matchup for Josh Jacobs. Still a must-start, though. Still a must-start. Let's go to the running back ranks. Josh Jacobs has obviously had an incredible season this year. He's had 6 straight games over 20 fantasy points, including a matchup here versus the Lions, who are comparable defense, I would say, to the Vikings. The pass funnel defense, very good run defense. The Lions have been pretty banged up, so this isn't truly representative of how good the Lions' run defense sort of should be and has been on paper this season. Jacobs had 3 rushing touchdowns in that game, though. He's had 6 straight games with a touchdown. Josh Jacobs is 3rd in rushing touchdowns per game, averaging just under 1 rushing touchdown per game. He's got 1 receiving touchdown, too. You got to start Josh Jacobs. I mean, he's got about as high of a touchdown ceiling as every single player in the NFL today. The matchup's not amazing. Vikings have been 3rd best in terms of fantasy points allowed to running backs this season. Doesn't really matter for Josh Jacobs. The role has been really great. He only played 40% of snaps last week because the game was over before it started. Really rough for anyone that needed Josh Jacobs props. I need Josh Jacobs to hit 30 points to advance to the Best Ball Mania finals. Didn't get there. He would have gotten there too. They scored 2 more rushing touchdowns in this game with the backup running backs. But yeah, Josh Jacobs is a must-start. Definitely a must-start here. Not a good matchup, but the game environment's good. He gets to play in a dome, and he's got a great chance to score in this game. Jordan Love, he's also a very, very good option. Jordan Love and Sam Darnold. If you don't have Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Baker Mayfield today, and you still have a quarterback you need to play, it's Darnold and Love. And then there's a big drop-off, I think, after that, down to Brock Purdy, Bryce Young, Jared Goff. But yeah, I think Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, both good starts. Jaden Reed, borderline must start. The last time Jaden Reed played the Minnesota Vikings, he absolutely popped off. 27 points, by far his best game of the season. His second best game of the season. His best game of the season was week 1. He scored a rushing touchdown in that game too. But the last time we saw Jaden Reed go over 20 points was against this Vikings defense. This pass funnel Vikings defense. On the Vikings side of the ball, so we're starting Josh Jacobs. We're starting Jordan Love. I want to start Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs. I like Dontavian Wicks too, and I think Kraft is for sure startable as well. Musgrave is back though. Musgrave came back last week for the first time in a while. Didn't have a huge role. He didn't have a catch. He did have 1 target. Only played 11% of snaps though. You do have to think this rises a little bit. Not enough to be, I think, off of Tucker Kraft, but definitely noteworthy since Musgrave's missed most of the season. And then for the Minnesota Vikings, Jefferson's still wide receiver 1. There's no Jair Alexander for the Packers in this game, which is absolutely massive for the Vikings passing attack. Suddenly this Packers secondary that's been pretty good this season is really not that scary for this Vikings passing attack. The last time the Vikings played the Packers, Sam Darnold threw 3 touchdowns, 275. There was like 600 passing yards between the Vikings and the Packers last time they played. We could see something similar again today. Aaron Jones in a revenge game here. He didn't do that great versus the Packers last time. 18 points, didn't score, did go for 130 yards. Definitely not a bad game here, but a good floor here for Aaron Jones for sure. He played 81% of snaps last week, one of his high snap percentages of the season, 75% rush share. They're giving Aaron Jones suddenly a workhorse role down the stretch here when it matters most. Jordan Addison is also a must start. Also a must start. He's been absolutely balling. Obviously, a lot of attention is going to go to Justin Jefferson, and they have a legit number 2 ascending here alongside Justin Jefferson. I really, heading into the season, believed Jordan Addison was going to get suspended at this point of the season. That ended up not coming to fruition. That was a big miss by me. He will likely get a suspension some point next season with the whole offseason debacle. Nonetheless, though, he's a must start here. He's been over 13 points in 3 straight games. He's seeing a significant role, over 20% target share, at least a 20% target share for Jordan Addison in 6 consecutive games. Someone asking for the defense list. I'll go to the defense list here. I do like the Dolphins, the Colts. I also think the Browns should be a little higher on this list with the Dolphins quarterback situation and weather in that game too. The Browns are definitely a sneaky defense today. Yeah, we're starting Jordan Addison. He's a must start. Justin Jefferson's a must start, obviously. Aaron Jones is a must start. And Sam Darnold is a must start too, unless you have one of the top 3 QBs that are left. Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Baker Mayfield. Otherwise, I'm going Darnold. I would play Darnold over Jordan Love. I was going back and forth. This game, I think, is the DFS game too of the week. There's definitely going to be some big scores in some of these other games, but in the dome games, the Raiders, Saints, Vikings, Packers, these are the games I really want to attack DFS-wise, which is why I'm stacking Sam Darnold, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Dontavian Wicks in my DraftKings lineup today. My best lineup of the season this year came just a few weeks back when we stacked Darnold, Addison, and Jefferson together. That was against the Falcons, 35 points in that game. Unfortunately, Josh Allen scored 60,000 fantasy points that week, so he didn't get first place with that lineup that scored 210 points. But Sam Darnold stack definitely very live today. And Hawkinson is also a very good option. I mentioned this earlier in one of my fantasy football finals matchups. I'm in 4 fantasy football finals matchups today. Very proud of that. But I know all that matters is winning in the finals. That is something to be proud of. Just making it there, you can definitely give yourself a pat on the back, but then you got to lock in and go win. And one of those finals matchups, I got to decide between Hawkinson and Chig. And I'm already significantly ahead in that matchup. The first few games have gone very well. I'm at over 70% chance to win. I'm going to go Hawkinson there over Chig, even though I think Chig has a higher ceiling than Hawkinson. I like Chig's projection more than I like TJ Hawkinson's projection. If I was down, and if it was the reverse situation, I only had a 30% chance to win, I would go Chig over Hawkinson. If it was 50-50, I mean, it's really close. I think I'd probably lean Hawkinson personally because I think there's just a much safer floor for Hawkinson in this game environment. But Chig Okonkwo is definitely in play here. It's a real start-sit decision, I think, for a lot of people. All right, that's the Vikings-Packers game. I do think that the Vikings win this one at home, and they stay in contention for the 1 seed. But it should be a very, very close game. I don't feel very strongly about that. All right, we got 2 games left. The 2 primetime games left this week. We got the Falcons-Commanders. There's rain in this game, too. Definite rain showers in this game between the Falcons and Commanders. The wind gusts are up to 23 miles an hour, so I'm not that concerned about this game weather-wise. But there's going to be rain in this game. 100% going to be rain. It's going to rain the entire game here between the Commanders and the Falcons. That probably pushes these offenses to be a little bit more run-heavy, but no reason to think these guys won't be able to pass successfully. Jaden Daniels, the only QB I'm starting over Jaden Daniels is Josh Allen. And with that weather report and that Bills game, I don't even think it's crazy to say Jaden Daniels should be played over Josh Allen. We're going to get to the start sets here momentarily, guys. 2 games left. Go through the 3. I got 3 free player props for us today. We've been absolutely smashing the props here down the stretch of the season. I got a DraftKings lineup. Then we're going to grind through start sets on Fantasy Football Championship Sunday day the rest of the way. I'm pumped to get after it. This Commanders-Falcons game is definitely going to be a fun one. Jaden Daniels is pretty much locked to be the rookie of the year. I really isn't much of a race. In other years, Brock Bowers, I think, would have been locked in at this point. But with these 2 final matchups Jaden Daniels has, the Commanders still a lot to play for here, too. We pull up the NFL playoff picture here. The Commanders had a huge win last week versus the Eagles. Obviously, Jalen Hurts got hurt in that game. The Commanders right now, if they win, they're over 99% to be in the playoffs. This is a playoff game for them, essentially, if they win. If they lose, they're still at 84% to make the playoffs. They're probably going to be in the playoffs. But if they win, they're in. So big game for them, obviously. The Commanders are 3.5-point favorites at home in this one. Terry McLaurin absolutely needs to be started. 100% needs to start Terry McLaurin. He missed his first practice of the season this past week. Let me hop back over to the wide receiver ranks. Terry McLaurin is ahead of almost everyone in the wide receiver ranks today. He's right up there at the top of tier 2. Justin Jefferson, Mike Evans, AJ Brown. These are the only receivers I would recommend starting over Terry McLaurin today. Terry McLaurin's had an incredible season, man. He's up to wide receiver 12 in fantasy points per game. He really has not had bad games. He had one bad game this whole season since week 3. That came against the Eagles, but he had a great bounce back spot versus the Eagles last week. I was pretty nervous about that matchup versus the Eagles. Still at 5 catches, 60 yards, and a touchdown, scored 17 points. Was a top 20 wide receiver again. He's been a top 24 wide receiver almost every single week this season. And he has an elite ceiling, too. He's been over 20 points in 3 of his last 4 games. And he gets a great matchup here versus the Falcons. Again, it should be close. Should be relatively high scoring in comparison to some of these other games throughout the week. Brian Robinson Jr., he's startable for sure as well. He only had 2 points last week versus the Eagles. He was on the must-bench category last week. Felt good about that call. Really tough against the Eagles. Part of the reason I am scared for Rico Dowdle this week. I do not want to start Rico Dowdle at all in this game versus the Eagles. The Falcons aren't the easiest run defense either, but B-Rob's definitely startable in this spot depending on who you're starting him over. Olamide Zaccheaus launched onto the scene last week, 24 points for Zaccheaus, 2 TDs. I think he had the game winner. Actually, Jameson Elite Crowder had the game winner. Welcome back, Jameson Elite Crowder. Those of you OGs know what I'm referencing there. The true OGs know Jameson Crowder is elite and still elite somehow here in 2024 heading into 2025. But yeah, none of these other receivers you can really start. Jameson Elite Crowder, definitely fun to see him back being elite. He's got a real projection here. Zach Ertz, really not a tight end I want to start. He's playing through injuries. He said last week he probably shouldn't have played, basically, but he was playing the Eagles, so he wasn't going to miss it. Still played 70% of snaps, but he's been under 10% target share now back-to-back games. He got hurt in this week 15 game, so not super fair to take that one. But last week, only 2 targets. Still shocking to me they're not getting Benson it more involved. All right, that's the Commander side. On the Falcons side, I'm forced to start Michael Penix in one league this week. I had Jalen Hurts in that league. Then I had Tua as the backup option. Obviously, the weather in that game. Now, Tua's not even playing. The waiver wire completely ravaged. I'm going with Michael Penix here in this game versus the Commanders. Michael Penix projects as a top 10 QB left. Go back to the QB ranks here. I would start Bryce Young over Penix if I could. We saw Bryce Young do very well versus the Bucs last time they played. Michael Penix in the rain. Penix was, I think, better than the box score showed in his first game last week. I think Penix is going to be good. I stand by my Penix take from last week that Penix was probably a talent elevator in college. Not elevated by the talent around him, but he was elevating other players. The biggest knock on Penix coming out of college was, he played with these great receivers. Maybe it was just the receivers. Maybe it was just Jalen Polk, who has done absolutely nothing this season. Seeing that graphic, for those of you that watched the Pats game through to the end, the graphic of the Ladd McConkey trade, where the Pats basically traded the Chargers' Ladd McConkey to go get Javon Baker and Jalen Polk. I mean, sickening as a Pats fan. We are literally allergic to drafting good wide receivers. Roma Dunze, Penix played with, and Jalen McMillan. I mean, these are all guys, they're having a range of success so far in the rookie season, but they're not smashing. It's definitely possible Penix elevated them in college. And in his first game, completed 67% of his passes, 7.5 yards per attempt. We finally saw some mobility from the quarterback for the Falcons, not necessarily in the rushing game. He only had 3 rushing yards, but just moving him outside the pocket. He can actually maneuver in and out of the pocket, which we haven't seen from Kirk Cousins all season. Definitely is going to raise the bar for this offense, I think, down the stretch of the season for the Falcons. Falcons are already in. Technically, they're not in, actually. This is a pretty big game for them, too. Actually, a bigger game for the Falcons than the Commanders. So the Commanders, if they lose, still an 84% chance to get into the playoffs. If they win, they're in. The Falcons, if they lose, they're down to a 33% chance to make the playoffs. If they win, they're up to 85% chance to make the playoffs. So a must-win game here for the Falcons. They're 3.5-point underdogs here. Drake London, he's a must-start in this spot. Drake London, new QB, same role last week. Still had a 31% target share with Michael Penix. Clearly the alpha wide receiver on this team. Went over 10 points. Elite floor, elite ceiling here for Drake London. I want to start Drake London if I can today in this spot. Darnell Mooney is startable as a flex option. He didn't do great. 13 points, actually. He did fine. 23% target share for him. Both these guys are startable. London's a must start. Mooney's a good start. Bless you. Thank you. All right, that's the Falcon side of this game. Bijan Robinson is a smash start here too. Bijan Robinson also having just an absolutely incredible season. a really good matchup here versus the Commanders, too. We just saw Saquon Barkley go for 150 rushing yards and 2 TDs versus Commanders defense. The Commanders defense has really struggled to stop running backs all season. No defense. There's only one defense allowing more yards per carry to running backs this season than the Washington Football Commanders. Bijan is an elite option today. All right, one more game to get through before we get to the free player props, the DraftKings lineup. I do like the Falcons to cover in this game. They're 3.5-point underdogs in Washington. I do like the Commanders to win, the Falcons to cover. All right, one more game. This game is projected to be close to and should be a good game as well. The Falcons and the Lions. And I believe if the Lions win this one, they lock up the 1 seed. A lot to play for here for the Lions. I don't think they've locked up that 1 seed yet. Yeah, they're 13-2. The Vikings are also 13-2. So I guess it matters what happens in that Vikings game. And the Eagles technically have a shot at it, but it's really between the Lions and the Vikings now for that 1 seed. They get a 3.5-point. They're 3.5-point favorites in San Francisco this week. Jahmyr Gibbs, yeah, will get the 1 seed if the Vikings lose. Yeah, so they might actually have nothing to play for if the Vikings already lose. If the Vikings win, then the Lions need to win to get it. I think one of their last 2 games. I guess they have the tiebreaker there. And the Vikings are only 1-point favorites in that Packers game. It should be a really close game. So definitely possible. There's not much to play for here for the Lions. Jahmyr Gibbs is... So I guess for fantasy, you kind of want the Vikings to win. So the Lions have more to play for here. But Jahmyr Gibbs is the number 1 overall fantasy football option here in Week 17, just like he was last week. No David Montgomery. Jahmyr Gibbs is an unreal option for fantasy. Back-to-back games now over 25 points, and we're seeing the role without David Montgomery come to fruition. 72% of the carries last week, by far, is most of the season. He's played 2 back-to-back games. His high snap percentages of the season, right around 70%. He had 23 carries. That was his most of the season. Last week had another 5 targets on top of that, a 16% target share there for Jahmyr Gibbs. Not a bad matchup here versus the 49ers. Obviously, you're starting Gibbs. Obviously, you're starting Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jared Goff is definitely startable too. I think Goff versus Michael Penix is pretty close. I would go Goff there. I would play Bryce Young over Goff, though, and I'd play Brock Purdy over Goff, too, with how the Lions defense looks right now. Jameson Williams, he's a flex option. He's really not a must-start, though. He's had some big games. 26 points last week. Had 143 yards and a touchdown, back-to-back games with the TD. For Jameson Williams, he's actually had a pretty strong floor, at least 9.5 points now in 6 straight games. For Jameson Williams, the 49ers do rank number 1 versus wide receivers this season, though. He's not a must-start. He's an okay start. And then Sam Laporta, he's also starting to come on here down the stretch. Head back over to the tight end ranks. I think him versus Chigakonkwu, him versus TJ Hawkinson is pretty close as well. I would play Chig over Laporta. He's had at least 10 points in 4 straight games, though. The 49ers have been good versus tight ends. Similar spot there, I think, between Chig and Laporta as it is between Chig and Hawkinson. Laporta's floor is safer than Chig's. I would argue Chig's ceiling is a little higher, though. Man, the role has been growing, though, for Laporta. Would not knock you for going Laporta over Chig. Would not knock you for going Laporta over Hawkinson either. I think they're all in a similar tier. On the 49ers side of this game, Deebo Samuel finally shows up 1 week after we thought he was going to. 25 points for Deebo last week. His best game of the season was the wide receiver 5 last week. 7 catches, 96 yards in a TD. Also at 25 rushing yards. He had 9 targets and 5 rushing attempts last week. He had almost a third of the carries. But Garendo's back this week, so I think that rushing role will probably decline there for Deebo this week. Still a pretty exciting option, an elite ceiling here for Deebo versus the Lions. This is an incredible matchup here for the 49ers pass catchers. Juwan Jennings and Deebo are very good starts. I wouldn't call them a must start because of the floor we've seen Deebo have, but Jennings and or Deebo are going to have a really, really high ceiling in this game. At least one of these receivers is going to go over 100 yards and score. And George Kittle, he's right up there in tier 1 with Brock Bowers. George Kittle is tight end 1. Despite an all-time historic season, rookie season from Brock Bowers, George Kittle is firmly tight end 1 in fantasy points per game this season at 16.4. He's a full point ahead of Brock Bowers in points per game at 15.5, and McBride's down at 14.3 there. George Kittle's having an unreal season. The Lions have been really, really good versus tight ends. They haven't played the best tight ends, though. Definitely still starting Kittle with confidence this week. And I think Garendo is also a start. A.J. Brown, he does drop with Hurts out. The weather in that game's not great, too. But A.J. Brown had a 60% target share last week. So you can't bench him. Kenny Pickett knows His job is to throw the ball to AJ Brown as much as humanly possible. Show running backs. Yeah, I got you with the running backs. Pull up the running backs here. Yeah, so Guerrero is definitely an interesting start this week. I would start him over. We talked about Brian Robinson. I'd start him over Brian Robinson. I'd start him over Madison. I'd start him over Dowdle for sure. I don't think I'd start him over Ford, but it's close. I'm not starting him over Brees or any of those guys above him. But Guerrero should be in a good role. He's already been confirmed in this game. The last time we saw Guerrero start, he had 11.5 points versus the Rams. He was battling through injuries in that one. Not the best matchup here versus the Lions. He did have 27 points versus the Bears in week 14. He should have a decent role in this game. We should see at least 15 touches for him in this game. He had 16 carries in his last start, 15 carries in the start before that. Brock Purdy startable here too for the same reasons I like Juwan Jennings and Debo ceiling. Gotta like Brock Purdy ceiling here too against the Lions defense that's almost entirely injured. Like over half the defense, over half the starting defense for the Lions is injured. The Lions, similar to some of these other teams across the league, like the Bengals, they are built for shootouts. Their offense is unreal and their defense is terrible. Ricky Pearsall, well off the radar at this point, did have 7.7 points. One of his better games last week, played 72% of the snaps. Maybe he's an interesting sleeper, but I wouldn't risk it, obviously, in the finals. That's it. That's every single game this week. My thoughts on every single relevant player in every single game. Let's get to the DraftKings lineup. Let's get to the free player props, and then we're getting to the comments, guys, for the rest of this live stream. We're going to grind through the start sits. If you're just joining the YouTube live, guys, smash the like button. Hit the subscribe button. We are live for our 17th straight Sunday, and man, I'm as excited as I've been any Sunday of the season. It is the fantasy football finals, guys. We are finally here. This is what we've been grinding all season for, and we got to make the best possible start sits we can make, put ourselves in the best possible position to take home the ship. No better feeling, man. This is what it's all about. All right, let's get to the DraftKings lineup here. I referenced it a little bit earlier, but I'm going with the double stack like I did with my best DraftKings lineup of the season back in week 14. Sam Darnold double stacked with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison in the dome game versus the Packers, and I'm bringing it back with Dontavian Wicks. Dontavian Wicks definitely one of the best value plays on DraftKings this week. There's no Christian Watson this week. Dontavian Wicks definitely has a good ceiling in this game. Last week, Dontavian Wicks played 61% of snaps. He should be right around 60% plus. Again, this week, the last time we played the Minnesota Vikings, Dontavian Wicks scored twice, had 5 catches, 78 yards, and 2 TDs, had 25 points. I think there's room to get another Packers player in this lineup too. I'm playing 2 tight ends right now in this lineup because I paid up for Justin Jefferson and Brock Bowers. And there's maybe an argument not to pay up for Brock Bowers here. Play Chig at tight end and figure out another flex. There's still $300 left over in this DraftKings lineup too. This is the lineup I currently have in. Playing 2 tight ends gives you a lot of differentiation, but not my favorite thing to do at the same time. Chig is just way too underpriced though. I don't love playing Chig and Spears either, but I want to play Tajay Spears. Tajay Spears is going to be extremely high owned, and I think rightfully so. Bucky Irving and Spears, the 3 guys that I really want in my DraftKings lineup this week, Bucky Irving, Spears, and Wicks. I would build around those guys. I think you can build some really, really strong lineups around those guys. So some tweaking maybe to do here. I like the Browns defense where they're priced at too, with all the stuff going on in that Dolphins game. 50+ mile an hour wind gusts. 50 mile an hour wind gusts in the Dolphins game. And you got Snoop Huntley starting for Tua. Got to feel pretty good about that Browns price on DraftKings too. All right, that's the DraftKings line. Let's get to the 3 free player props today as well. All somewhat related to what I was just saying. So I like the Bucky Irving over rushing. Today, we've seen 3 straight games where the Panthers have allowed a 100-yard rusher. They're setting Bucky Irving's line at 88.5 today. Put a wide receiver, I got you. James Conner did it. Rico Dowdle did it. Saquon Barkley did it. Bucky Irving did it. So 4 straight games. And one of those was Bucky Irving, who had 152 rushing yards last time he played the Panthers. And the coaching staff is actively mad at Rachaad White for fumbling last week. So I like the Bucky Irving rushing. I think he goes over 100 rushing yards today. Tajay Spears, I like his over receiving yards today. Spears is one of the most efficient receiving backs in the NFL. That was the case last year. Been the case again this season, averaging 8 yards per reception and 87% catch rate this year. he's beaten this line. Tajay Spears has beaten this line in back-to-back games. And Pollard played in both those games. Pollard's out this week. We're projecting him still under these receiving yard totals he's had the last couple of games. The last 2 games combined, Tajay Spears is at 9 catches for over 110 receiving yards. And they're setting his line at 22.5. I mean, he can literally do this in 1 catch. He could easily do this in a single drive. I like this Tajay Spears receiving yards line a lot as well. And then Dorian Thompson-Robinson under passing yards. I don't think he goes over 100 passing yards today. This game, again, let me read this weather report for you. In this Dolphins game, you pull it up here. It's this one, yeah. There's going to be sustained winds in this Browns-Dolphins game. This game's in Cleveland. Between 21 and 28 miles an hour. Sustained winds. There's going to be sustained winds over this concerning 25-mile-an-hour threshold. Guys, if you're new here, Weatherman Sam's got you. I've done a lot of research on NFL weather and how it impacts offenses and what it means for fantasy football. Wind over 25 miles an hour is not good for passing offenses. That shouldn't be that surprising. It's not that surprising. But that's the threshold where I start to get very concerned. That's sustained winds in that range. Then there's wind gusts as high as 51 miles an hour. I'm seeing projected at 41 wind gust mile an hour range. So as high as 51, but like most of them probably in the 40 mile an hour range. That's also very, very concerning. And then on top of that, Dorian Thompson-Robinson already is not good. Dorian Thompson-Robinson in normal conditions might not hit this prop line. He had 157 passing yards last week in a good weather game against an awful defense. The Bengals' 29th defense versus quarterbacks. And Dorian Thompson-Robinson throws for 157 with David Njoku playing. David Njoku's not playing this week. Now he gets a matchup versus the Dolphins, who rank number 1 versus quarterbacks this season in terms of fantasy points allowed. In a game with 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts with no David Njoku, I don't think he gets to 150 yards today. I would not be shocked if he doesn't get over 100 passing yards in this game. Dorian Thompson-Robinson under. That's the other free player prop of the day. I like all 3 of these a lot. Bucky Irving over rushing, Tajay Spears over receiving, and Dorian Thompson-Robinson under passing yards. That's the free player props. All right, we're going to get to the start 6 segment of this live now. I'm seeing someone ask already. I knew we were going to get this question. I already talked about it, but we'll talk about it again here. The question here was Chig versus Hawkinson. And I got this exact same start-sit decision in one of my leagues, and I'm going with Hawkinson in mine. But let me talk through it here. Because Chig projects better than Hawkinson in the Walter Picks app, and that does make sense. He's projected for a much higher target share. He's been better than Hawkinson in back-to-back weeks. He's got a even better matchup than Hawkinson too. So he really checks almost every single box over Hawkinson. But Hawkinson, to me, still has a much safer floor. I think the floor for Hawkinson is much safer. This game's in a dome. The Titans-Jags game does have some rain involved. Obviously, you got Mason Rudolph starting for the Titans too. And I'm already over 70% chance to win in that finals matchup. So I'm willing to play it safe and go with Hawkinson and try to lock in at least 7 points. Like, I do think Chig has a floor still close to 3 points. So I'm going Hawkinson there, but I think if it's like if you're in a competitive finals matchup or you're falling behind in your matchup, I'm okay going Chig. Is Chig a good flex option? He's a fine flex option. He's projected over 12 points today in the Walter Picks app. Tracy or Garendo? Oh man, I think I'd probably hop back over to the running back ranks here. Yeah, I think I'd go Garendo over Tracy. Tough call there for sure. Spears or Breece Hall? Yeah, so we're going to get a ton of Spears questions today, guys. I'm not benching Spears. Spencer, I don't think you can bench Spears. I don't know how you can bench Spears in like almost all situations. Unless you have Josh Jacobs, Bijan, JT, Bucky, Saquon, or Gibbs. Like I think I'd play Spears over Aaron Jones. I'd play Spears over James Cook. I think I'd play him over Achane. I saw that one too. Obviously a really tough call. It feels weird to play James Cook over Achane, to play him over Breece Hall. And Breece Hall's got a good matchup today. That Bills game, the Dolphins game and the Bills game today, these are the 2 worst weather games of the week. Like bad weather, like significantly weather that I'm actually very concerned about for the offenses having success in the passing game. That's not necessarily bad for Breece and Achane, right? These are short yardage receiving backs, and they could get even more rush volume in these game environments. But Tajay Spears gets the Jags, man, and there's no Tony Pollard. And Spears has been over 21 points in back-to-back games. He scored, 4 touchdowns in his last 2 games now? 3? Yeah, he's got 4 touchdowns in his last 2 games, and he's got an amazing matchup here versus the Jags. He's going to play over 60% of the snaps. He's going to get over 60% of the work. He's one of the most efficient backs in the league. He's fully healthy. He's rested, fully rested, basically. So I'm playing Spears over Brees. I'm playing Spears over Achane. Feels weird, man, but I do think it makes sense. If I need a boom, should I go B-Rob or Ford in PPR? Yeah, Kalen, honestly, I'm not sure either of these guys are really going to give you the boom that you need, but it's probably Ford. I think it's probably Ford. He's just a little bit bigger in the pass game. Hey, Sam, I'm down bad in the finals due to Stroud and the Bears. Should I start Goff or risk it with Penix? And do I play Pittman over Ridley? I would definitely start Goff. Connie. Goff absolutely has a higher ceiling in that game on Monday night than Penix has tonight. Penix also playing in the rain. That doesn't give me a ton of confidence. We're going to see like a lot of pass volume, significant pass volume from Penix. And then Pittman versus Ridley is close. I think it's probably Pittman. with Joe Flacco starting. Wow, the ceiling's higher for Ridley, though. I don't necessarily disagree with that either. Obviously, the matchup is good for Ridley. Revenge game for Ridley. Pittman played 98% of snaps last week. He had 3 targets, which was 27% target share. I think Richardson completed, 7 passes in his last game? I mean, ridiculous stuff. Yeah, I mean, if you're down bad, I think you do go Ridley, actually. I think you do go Ridley if you're down bad. I think that's fine. Chig versus Jake Ferguson is, I think, similar to what I was saying with TJ Hawkinson. Ferguson has a pretty solid floor today. He's the top receiving option for the Cowboys today. Not a great matchup versus the Eagles. He had 6 catches last week, though. Like, he's got a decent floor, 27% target share, his highest of the season last week. So it's close, but yeah, I think I would go Chig. I think I'd go Chig over Ferguson still. Coker or Leggett? Yeah, that's a tough call too. I think it's Coker over Leggett, but it's definitely close. Smitty or Ridley? I'd go Devontae Smith over Calvin Ridley. Let's go to the wide receiver ranks here. Let me know in the chat, guys, which ranks you guys want to see next. Sam, please help. Charge for a free trial. Yeah, email support@WalterPicks, Logan. We got you. Support@WalterPicks, Logan. Yeah, I'll message it so you got it. There is a discount running in the Walter Picks app right now, an end of year discount. We do not do discounts in the Walter Picks app. Haven't had a discount in a while. Really, this is almost definitely going to be the only discount we do all year. It's an end of year discount. You get up to 40% off your first year in the Walter Picks app. If you were thinking about the subscription, now is the time to do it. Lock it in for next draft season and the whole offseason with NBA and MLB props too. NFL props, obviously, throughout the entire NFL playoffs too. Myers or Addison? Yeah, this is a good one. Myers or Downs, I'm seeing too in the TikTok live. Shout out to everyone in this live stream right now, by the way. Do appreciate it a lot. Everyone here in week 17, grinding in the fantasy football finals. And yeah, it's Addison, man. I'm not benching Addison. I think, what was the other one? It was Myers versus Devontae Smith. That one's really close. Honestly, think I might go, man, I think you got to go Devontae Smith there too. We got Thielen over Jacoby Myers. I think I agree with that also. I would play Myers over Jaden Reed, Myers over Juwan Jennings. And those are pretty close too. Definitely some tough Jacoby Myers questions. Good morning, Sam. Khalil Shakir or Tyreek with the weather and Huntley. Also, Brenton Strange or Payne Durham. Jordan, these are the questions, man, that get me up in the morning. Tyreek versus Shakir. Both these games have really bad weather. So obviously you got the quarterback stuff with Tyreek and Huntley starting. Definitely that's not good for Tyreek. But Shakir also is in a pretty bad weather game. So I think I would go Tyreek over Shakir. Yeah, I still think there's a better ceiling for Tyreek than Shakir. And then Brenton Strange versus Durham, who's stepping in for Cade Otton. Yeah, it's Durham. Strange, ever since he fumbled, is just, I don't think you can start him. He had 2 points last week. I was in on him last week. I've moved on to Chikakonku now, but yeah, he was actually like doing okay. Had 1 big catch and then fumbled, and then barely played the rest of the game. I think I would go Durham here. Achane or Tracy, definitely Achane. Wicks, Dobbs, or Cooks, non-PPR. Yeah, I think that's Dobbs over Wicks. I play them all over Cooks. Ford or Spears, start Spears. It does not matter if you're already starting Chig. Spears is an elite option this week. I'm playing him over almost everyone. Spears versus Devontae and Brian Thomas Jr. This one's definitely close. All these guys are really good options. I think it's probably Spears over Devontae. I'm not benching Brian Thomas Jr. here in the finals. Devontae Adams was questionable in this game. I would go Brian Thomas Jr. over Adams, I think. I don't think I agree with this projection slightly. But yeah, I would go Spears and BTJ. I'd bench Adams. H-N or Jameson Williams. I think I'll go H-N there. Sam, going for my first ship, and you haven't led me wrong yet. Jordan, this is a common type of sentiment I often get on this last live stream for the fantasy season for most people. You got yourself here, Jordan. I'm just here to try to give you the best information I could possibly give, tell you what I might do in certain situations. But ultimately, you got to make the calls. You are making the start-sit decisions, the ad drops, the trades. So if you made it here, man, it's you. And if you win, it's you. Pick wide receiver and flex standard. Spears, Thielen, Garendo, London, Downs, and Myers. Yeah, some very good options here. Not surprising to see you're in the finals. So first off, you got to start Spears. This is really pick one. Just play Spears in the flex. Spears is multiple tiers, I think, above most of these guys. And then in standard leagues, I do really want to play the running backs. Part of the reason the Walter Picks app is so powerful, by the way, guys, if you haven't checked out the Walter Picks app, we're running really an unreal end-of-season discount right now that you can go check out if you have been on the fence about the Walter Picks subscription. But the app's also free for people that don't want the premium features that the subscription gives. But part of the reason the app's so powerful is it accounts for your league settings. And it's really big if you're in a non-PPR league. Garendo's going to be pretty close here probably to London. And at wide receiver, Myers versus Downs versus Thielen. I think Thielen in London, yeah, it's really London's actually the best option here. Yeah, so it's one of these two guys. Wow, yeah, and it's Garendo. Garendo versus an injured Lions defense in a non-PPR league. Oh, but you said one wide receiver, right? So yeah, it's London. Yeah, you said one wide receiver. So yeah, it's London and Spears. Go London and Spears. That's what I would do. Championship game, Bucky or Spears. Yeah, so there's a very, very, very short list of guys that I'm starting over Spears today, and Bucky Irving's definitely on that list. Yeah, the short list is Gibbs, Saquon, Bucky, JT, and Bijan, and Josh Jacobs. That's it. End of list. End of list. McMillan or Tracy at flex. Oh, God, that's a tough call. McMillan versus Tracy. Let's do this quick. If you guys are watching live on TikTok, by the way, I'm also live on YouTube. It is a better viewing experience. I can share my screen to the comparisons we're talking about, and I can pull comments up on screen. Link to that is in the TikTok bio. Oh, sorry, I'm still on non-PPR. Let's switch back to PPR here. It's probably McMillan. Yeah, it's McMillan over Tracy. Jack here in the YouTube live. Hey, Sam, I'm in the last place game, and I need help. I can't be the biggest loser. Yeah, Jack, a lot of people in their fantasy finals today, and this is always something that comes up week 17 as well. You got to avoid last place at all costs. Everyone in your fantasy football finals can look at this and take a deep breath that you're at least not in the toilet bowl today. Should I start Juwan Jennings or Adam Thielen? Yeah, it's Thielen. I think it's Thielen. It's close. They both have good matchups. Jennings has been better over the course of the season. The better matchup, I think, is with Jennings. Oh, man, look at this ceiling. It depends. If you're down by a lot, Jack, already, then I think you do go Jennings. I do think Jennings has a significantly higher ceiling than Thielen in this game versus the Lions. But the floor for Thielen is better. So if you're projected to already lose by a lot, I'd go Jennings. If not, I think you ride with Thielen. So unlucky this week. Pick one running back, one flex. Blackshear, Kendre, McLeod, Leggett, and Zacchaeus. Yikes, Hudson. I don't want to start these running backs. You got to pick one of these running backs between Blackshear and Kendre. I think you go Kendre over Blackshear. Right now, Blackshear's prop lines are below. Let's pull up the Panthers here. Blackshear's not even projected to be the number one Panthers running back. Mike Boone has higher prop lines than him. Mike Boone. I don't think we're going to see a ton of volume for this backfield either for the Panthers. I think I would go Kendre, who's just better. And then McLeod, Leggett, or Zacchaeus. These guys are all probably pretty close together too. McLeod, Leggett, yeah, they are. And Zacchaeus. Oh my God, don't tell me it's Zacchaeus. Wow. I did not think it was going to be Zacchaeus. He's coming off an incredible game. Revenge game here, right? For Olamide Zacchaeus, definitely a former Falcon. He played 69%, a nice 69% of snaps last week too. I think it's Zacchaeus, man. I think it's Zacchaeus here. Maybe he can keep it going. Wilson or Debo? Yeah, that's definitely a close call between Garrett Wilson and Debo Samuel. Yeah, we had them really close. Honestly, I think I think I would lean Debo with the weather report for the Bills there. Should the Vikings beat the Packers on Sunday, it would guarantee that next week's Vikings-Lions game would be for the 1 seed. So this Lions game doesn't even matter, basically. Chase Brown avoided major injury, could play week 18. Walter, please pick 3. Jacobs, Bijan, Spears, Hall. Classic mistake here in week 17. My name is Sam. Walter is the AI model that powers the Walter Picks app that I helped build. Classic mistake. Do not worry about it. But yeah, I think I'd bench Brees Hall here. I'd play Spears, I'd play Bijan, and I'd play Jacobs. Why trust London, Rain, and rookie QB over Thielen? Starting Barkley, Jacobs, and Spears. I know I'm way too confident one of them will fail me. Yeah, it's close between London and Thielen. We got London projected as wide receiver 8 among the receivers left, and Thielen's at wide receiver 11. I'm with you that I would say Thielen's floor is maybe a bit safer, but I mean, London had a 30% target share last week. London is an elite wide receiver. And I don't overreact to the rain either. And I actually think Michael Penix looked pretty good last week. So I'm really not that scared to start Drake London over Thielen personally. St. Brown, London, guys, anyone reply? Yeah, it's St. Brown. Don't bench St. Brown. Hey, Sam, with Njoku out and Connor doing absolutely nothing in the championship, should I start Conklin, Durham, Calcaterra, or Adkins? Oh, man, we are so down bad with the tight ends this week. No, there's no David Njoku. Definitely a tough spot to be in here. Let's look at the tight end ranks here. Some of these guys might not even be in the tight end ranks. We got Calcaterra. I do not want to start Calcaterra at all. Durham is probably the answer here. Conklin versus Durham. It's probably Durham. I don't want to start Atkins either. I have no faith. I'm taking the DTR under passing yards today. That game has up to 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts, Zane, in that Dolphins game. This is the game to avoid, the passing game, like entirely. Durham, meanwhile, stepping into the Cade Otton role, gets a good matchup versus the Panthers, easily could score. There's some weather in that game too, but not nearly as much. And this Jets game also has really bad weather. The Jets-Bills game and the Dolphins-Browns game both have wind gusts over 40 miles an hour. Yeah, it's Durham. It's Payne Durham. Look at that stash. That's a fantasy football championship winning stash right there. 7.9 points. Last week he had 5 catches, 29 yards, played over 90% of the snaps. I mean, yeah, you're not going to find much better than this if these are the tight ends you're looking at. If you missed out on Chig, then yeah, you go Durham. Ford or Downs? Yeah, it's Downs over Ford. I like Downs a lot today. Downs and Pittman are much better today with Joe Flacco. DK lineup. Yeah, Nick, I got you with the DK lineup. This is a very configurable DK lineup where you can tweak a lot of things. I got 2 tight ends in the lineup right now, which you don't need to do. And there's $300 left over in this lineup too still. Cook or Spears? Yeah, it's Spears. It's Spears. Neighbors or London? That one's pretty close. I think that I would probably go Neighbors. Oh, man, we got London 1 spot ahead of Neighbors. Really close. Let's do this comparison quick. Another one, Neighbors has such an elite floor with the targets, just doesn't really have a true ceiling on that offense. It's London. It's London over Neighbors. Bryce Young, what do you think? He's playable for sure. Definitely playable this week. 100%. If you guys are just tuning in, let me catch you up. You got to go Wicks over Dowdle. You got to play Wicks over Dowdle. Jack, 100%, especially in a spot like this. There's no ceiling for Dowdle against the Eagles. The Eagles' run defense has been the only defense better than the Eagles' run defense has been the Chiefs. I mean, we have not seen good games. We've seen one game over 20 points versus this Eagles defense from running back. And I don't think we see a second today from Rico Dowdle. It was Chuba Hubbard a couple weeks back. Kyron Williams didn't do it. Chase Brown didn't do it. Bucky Irving, Rashad White didn't do it. Kamara didn't do it. Josh Jacobs didn't. Derrick Henry didn't against the Eagles. Like, this is a very, very good run defense for the Eagles. And Jontavian Wicks, the last time he played the Vikings, he scored twice, went over 20 points. Like, he actually has a real ceiling. He had 25 points in that game. His best game of the season by far. And there's no Christian Watson today. So, yeah, Wicks is a good option. So, if you guys are just tuning in on this beautiful Sunday morning, best day of the week, one of the best days of the year here. Fantasy Football Championship, Sunday. Today's the day where you really lock in the wins. There's one more game, obviously, tomorrow. There's a bunch of news to catch up on if you're just waking up. Tua is out. Anthony Richardson is out. There's some significantly bad weather this week. The worst weather games, it's the Bills and the Jets. And it's the Dolphins and the Browns. This Bills-Jets game is going to be raining in basically every single outdoor game today is raining. There's rain across the country today. That's why we sputtered out on the Wi-Fi earlier in this live stream. Wind gusts up to 44 miles an hour in this Bills-Jets game, on top of rain throughout the entire game, sustained winds as high as 23 miles an hour. Very difficult passing game environment. Makes me a lot more concerned for Devontae Adams, for Garrett Wilson, for all of the Bills pass catchers. And then the Dolphins and the Browns, even worse weather report in that game. Wind gusts as high as 51 miles an hour in that game. Rain throughout the whole game and sustained winds as high as 28. I would go Bryce Young over Flacco for sure. Let me pull the QB, and we'll go to running backs next, seeing some people ask for that. Championship game, need points, pick one. Hill or McMillan, Brandon Cooks, James, and Williams. Yeah, so I think you got to go Tyreek here. Tyreek versus McMillan. Oh, man, this is not an easy one. You're definitely not playing Brandon Cooks. Do not start Brandon Cooks. Absolutely not starting Brandon Cooks. Man, Tyreek still projects the best here. There's no Waddle. There's no Tua, though. I do think Tyreek's ceiling is the highest here. It's a tough call with Tyreek this week. The floor is really, really low with that weather report. 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts. I mean, there's no deep balls to Tyreek today. Absolutely none. That does kind of evaporate his ceiling to some extent. I mean, the target share should be there. In theory, we got Snoop Huntley starting, though, and I mentioned it earlier when we were talking through this game, this Dolphins game. The games we saw Tua not play earlier this season were really ugly. Like, the Dolphins offense looked like one of the worst offenses in the NFL during those games. And now they have another game with Tua out. That was week 3, 4, 5, and 7. Week 3, 4, 5, and 7. Tua was under 13 points in every single one of those games. And then you add the weather on top of that, man, I actually don't think you go Tyreek here. I don't think you go Tyreek with that, like, any amount of confidence today. I like the Dolphins and Colts defense a lot. Yeah, I like them both a lot. If you need a ceiling, too, it maybe is Jameson Williams. I think I would probably go Jameson Williams. I'm already starting Darnold, Jacobs, and Reed over Ridley. Would it be crazy to start Kraft or Durham over Johnny? Snoop Huntley is starting. And they're playing in significant wind and rain. I don't think it's crazy to start, like, any tight ends over Johnny today. I personally think I'd play Johnny over Durham. But I would go Kraft over Johnny. Yeah, I'm fine with it. And I don't hate getting a bunch of guys in this Packers-Vikings game. There's only 2 dome games today. Every other game's in the rain or significant wind. We got the Packers-Vikings in a dome, and then we got the Raiders and Saints in a dome. You just avoid the weather entirely. I think it's actually a really sharp play today. I'm going Chig over Jonnu. Yeah, I'm going Chig, like, pretty confidently over Jonnu. I'm playing Chig over Kraft. Chig, I would not describe as safe. Safe is not the word I would use to describe Chigokonku after I was all in on Brenton Strange last week. Wouldn't have described him as safe. Chigokonku, though, is a very high ceiling option. He has 17 catches for over 120 yards in his last 140 yards. He's got 17 catches for 140 in his last 2 games. He had a season-high snap percentage last week. He had a season-high target share last week. This is Chigokonku. The role is growing. The matchup is great. There's going to be some rain in the game, but there's not very scary wind in that one. So, yeah, I'm playing Chig over most guys, unless you want to play it safe. If you want to play it safe, which I'm doing in one of my leagues, I am playing Hawkinson over Chig because I'm already over 70% to win in that matchup. I think that's fine. I think it's fine to play Laporta and Kraft and Hockenson over Chig if you want to play it safe. But if you're trying to get as many points as possible and shoot for the ceiling, it's Chig, man. It's Chig, unless you have Kittle or Bowers. McMillan or Downs? Yeah, it's Downs over McMillan. I'm playing Spears over Achane. Hey, Sam, in the championship, do I play Jaden Reed, McMillan, or Devontae Smith without Hurts? Yeah, this is a tough call too, Aiden. I think that Devontae Smith projects the best. He had a really good target share last week. It's not a bad matchup for Devontae Smith. Jaden Reed is close behind him. It's definitely one of these two guys. Man, Jaden Reed versus the Vikings with no Christian Watson. I think I would probably just go Jaden Reed here. I think I would go Jaden Reed. I'd go against the rankings a little bit. He does have a higher ceiling, a slightly worse raw projection, medium projection. But he gets a dome game with Jordan Love versus a rain game with Kenny Pickett. Both of them, I think, have like pretty good ceilings too. I think I would go Reed. Christian Watson out, playing in the dome. I'm going Jaden Reed over Devontae Smith. Josh Allen in this weather. Yeah, you still kind of have to play Josh Allen. And I'm definitely a little bit more skittish on it now with the weather. Again, this weather is bad. And I'm not a weather alarmist. Weatherman Sam is not a weather alarmist. Weatherman Sam is almost always all season here telling you not to overreact to the weather. And actually, a lot of the games today, I don't think we should overreact. And I think some spots people will overreact. There's rain in basically every outdoor game today. If you look outside, wherever you are right now, it's probably raining or about to start raining. The Colts and Giants game is supposed to have a chance of some rain, but there's no wind in that game. I'm not concerned about that game at all. The Jets and Bills game is going to have rain, and it's going to have significant wind, up to 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Not good for the passing attacks. The Bills are 10-point favorites in that game. They're probably going to be really run-heavy in that game. You still kind of have to start Josh Allen. He still has a lot of incentive to play well in the MVP race. But there's not very many good options to bench for Josh Allen. Unless you have Jaden Daniels, I'd be fine with that. If you want to go Baker Mayfield, I don't think that's that crazy this week. But you're I'm not playing Bryce Young over Josh Allen. No, I'm not doing that in the fantasy football finals. Absolutely not doing that. Hey, Sam, 3-year premium customer. Thank you so much for trying out the Walter Picks app. Guys, the best way you could possibly support me in the entire Walter Picks brand. We're 17 straight Sundays in. If I've helped you at all, download the Walter Picks app. We have a limited time end of season discount going on in the Walter Picks app right now, which you can lock in for next season. So if you've ever been on the fence about the Walter Picks app subscription, now's the time, man. Link is in the YouTube description. Link is in the TikTok bio. Shout out to you for doing the Walter Picks subscription. And not surprising to see so many Walter Picks subscribers in the championship, man. It's great to see. It's honestly great to see. Garrett Wilson or Jalen McMillan PPR. Yeah, so for all those Bills pass game concerns, you got to have the same concerns about the Jets too with the weather in that game. I don't think it's crazy to go McMillan here. I really don't think it's crazy. Man, it's a really tough call. The Jets should have to pass, game script-wise. Weather-wise, it's going to be a little bit tougher. I do kind of think you have to go McMillan. I kind of think you got to go McMillan here with the weather report. Let me read it one more time. Wind gusts up to 41 miles an hour. Yeah, I think you go McMillan. Definitely a close call here. Definitely a close call. Garrett Wilson's still projecting better. The Walter Picks app is accounting for the weather here. To the best extent that Walter can, he does understand what the weather is in these games. I think I'd go McMillan though personally. I think I'm pretty scared of this wind in the Jets game. Hey Sam, going for a repeat championship here in my first 2 years subscribed. Let's go, Nick. And I gotta say, there's no better feeling in the world than winning your fantasy championship. There is one actually, and it's going back to back. If you go back to back in fantasy leagues is an absolutely unreal feeling. All right, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Coker, or Dontavian Wicks. Yeah, there's some really tough championship day start sits here with these weather reports. And with the quarterback situation for the Dolphins, I don't think it's an unreasonable take to just say, I'm not starting Tyreek today. I don't think it's unreasonable to say must bench Tyreek Hill today. I like Dontavian Wicks too, man. Jalen Coker actually projects better than Tyreek Hill here. Legette's back though. David Moore going to be active. Thielen going to be active. Jalen Coker only had 3 points last week without Legette. Got a good matchup this week. I think if you're going for the ceiling, man, it might be Wicks. Wicks is going to play over 60% of the snaps today. There's no Christian Watson. He gets a dome game with Jordan Love against a pass funnel defense in the Vikings. I honestly think this one's Wicks. I think I would go against what Walter's saying here, and I think I'd ride with Wicks. And Tyreek Hill, he's not. I wouldn't call Tyreek Hill a must bench. I don't think it's crazy to view him as a must bench if you want to view it that way. Again, the Dolphins somehow have an even worse weather report than the Bills. That Bills game has 44-mile-an-hour wind gusts, up to 44-mile-an-hour wind gusts, sustained winds in the 20 to 23-mile-an-hour range. The Dolphins game, sustained winds up to 28 miles an hour and wind gusts up to 50 miles an hour. It's actually, they're very similar weather reports. Both games going to have rain too. But on top of the weather for Tyreek, Tua is also out. We got Snoop Huntley in. And we were just looking at this. The 4 games that Snoop Huntley played, or that Tua didn't play, it wasn't all Snoop Huntley. Tyreek did not go over 13 points in a single one of those games. And those weren't bad weather games. They're just bad quarterback games. And we got a bad quarterback and bad weather game here for Tyreek. I think you bench him. I'm okay going Wicks. Can you show the wide receiver list? Yeah, I got it. What's the deal with Malik Neighbors? No deal. Still, same deal with Malik Neighbors. He's going to get over 10 targets. Probably not going to score a touchdown. He's going to get up to 10 points. I'm in the toilet bowl. I got you guys in the toilet bowl. Tyreek or Downs. I'm going Downs over Tyreek. B-Rob or Ford. I think I'd go Brian Robinson over Ford. No, it's Ford over Brian Robinson. Ford over Brian Robinson, and I'm going Chig over Jonnu. Had Burrow starting yesterday. Nice. Yeah, I would go Ford over Brian Robinson. Yeah, we had Joe Burrow extremely high in the ranks. Brees or Achane. Josh Allen or Jaden Daniels. Aiden, I think it's okay to go Jaden Daniels there. I do. I think it's okay to do. It's really rough to bench Josh Allen in the finals, but with the weather there, I think it's like not that crazy. I wanted to go to Brees Achane quick before we get to this one in the YouTube live. Guys, we're still just getting started here in this live stream. Multiple hours to go. We got a couple hours to go until some great games on our TV screens in the fantasy football finals. Achane versus Brees. These guys are both in the 2 wind games here. Yeah, it's Achane. I think you got to go Achane over Brees. Happy championship week. This is for back-to-back. Cup burn me. Yeah, it's really rough. Projected to only lose by 10. Pick 2 out of Garrett Wilson, Myers, Garendo, Devontae, McMillan in a PPR league. Man, I think you go Myers and Devontae Smith. I think I would play Myers, Garendo, and Devontae over McMillan. And I really don't want to start Garrett Wilson in that game. That's how I would play it. I think I'd probably go Myers and Devontae. I'd go Myers and Devontae Smith or Myers and Garendo. I do feel decent about Myers. That's another one of these dome games too, with the weather across the league, the significant rain, the significant wind. Getting these guys in the 2 dome games today feels like a cheat code. Sam, I made the chip for the first time. Pick 2, Ford, PTJ, and Spears. Yeah, it's the last 2 here. Bench Ford easily. Bench Ford easily here. Brian Thomas Jr., an elite option. Tajay Spears, an elite option today. So yeah, Josh Allen projects better than Jaden Daniels. I'm fine if you want to ride with Jaden Daniels over Josh Allen. Wicks versus McMillan is a close call, man. I do like Wicks. I want to start these Packers receivers. At least 2 of these 3 Packers receivers is going to have a good game. Dobbs, Wicks, and Reed. Big week. Huge week. Christian. It does not get bigger than this week. Thielen, Wicks, Pittman, Abdullah. Projected to lose in PPR. Yeah, it's 2 of these 3 receivers for sure in PPR, especially if you're projected to lose. I think you got to go Thielen and Pittman here. Let's check this one out. Joe Flacco starting is massive for Pittman and for Downs. I do think Wicks arguably has a higher ceiling. You got to play Thielen. And then it's between Wicks and Pittman. We have not seen Pittman go over 20 points a single time this whole season. I mean, how is that possible? If we go back to last season, real quick, for Michael Pittman, I mean, he's frequently going over 20 points. Did it 4 different times, hit 19 a bunch of times. The tale of 2 different seasons here. And Wicks does have the higher ceiling. He does have, you're projected to lose Go Thielen and Wicks, man. Go Thielen and Wicks, bench Pittman. You got to expect the Colts to be extremely run heavy too. Good morning, Sam. I hope you had a great holiday and hope all is well. What props do you like for today's game? And I saw the incentives that players have, like Adams wants to catch his 500th from Rodgers. Yeah, the incentives are always a big storyline this time of season. I got 3 props I like a lot today. We're riding with Bucky Irving over 88.5 rushing yards. I think Bucky Irving goes over 100 rushing yards today. We've seen 4 straight games where a running back has gone over 100 rushing yards versus the Panthers, and that includes a game from Bucky Irving like 3 or 4 weeks ago. So I like Bucky's rushing a lot. We've also heard some narrative from the coaching staff, frustrated with Rachaad White's fumble from last week. I think we could see a season-high snap percentage from Bucky today. Tajay Spears, over 22.5 receiving yards. He smashed this in consecutive weeks, and now Pollard's out. And you get the matchup versus the Jags. Spears can easily hit this in a single drive. I really like this line as well. Spears is one of the most efficient receiving backs in the NFL. And then Dorian Thompson-Robinson, under 157.5 passing yards. This is going to be a good day, guys, I think, for passing and receiving yard unders. Don't be afraid to take some unders and mix in some unders today. The Dolphins-Browns game has wind gusts up to 50 miles an hour. The Bills-Jets game has wind gusts up to 44 miles an hour. We got a game between Tyler Snoop Huntley and Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I mean, they might not even combine for 100 passing yards in that game with that weather. Spears or Achane, I'm starting Bucky. Yeah, you got to go Spears. You got to go Spears over Achane today. The only guys I'm benching Spears for, Josh Jacobs, I'd play over Spears. Bijan, I'd play over Spears. JT, I'd play over Spears. Bucky, I'd play over Spears. Saquon, I'd play over Spears. And Gibbs, I'd play over Spears. Achane's close, man. Don't get me wrong. I don't feel good benching Achane in the fantasy football finals. Like, I don't feel good about that. But Spears is in a much better situation today. Much better weather. Spears has the better quarterback here. He's got Mason Rudolph compared to Tyler Huntley. I mean, not that much better, but I would say better. And he's also got the backfield to himself with Pollard out too. I do think we see Chestnut mix in a little bit, but not in any substantial way. Good morning, Sam, Jeff. Good morning. Does not feel like morning to me. We've been up for, feels like 12 hours. Championship week, man. Thanks for the help this season. I got you. 17 Sundays in and still going strong. Trying to upset my neighbors. 3-peat. Wow. Goff or Love? Yeah, it's Love. It's Love versus over Goff. I want pieces of this Vikings-Packers game today for sure. Devontae Smith or Jaden Reed? Yeah, I think I'm fine going Jaden Reed here. We had a similar question here, I think, earlier. But yeah, like when you really break it down and think about it, do you want Kenny Pickett in the rain or Jordan Love in the dome? Like, it's not even close when you think about it that way, Parker. I think you go Jordan Love in the dome over Kenny Pickett in the rain 100 times out of 100 times. Dobbs or Neighbors? Yeah, I think you got to go Neighbors over Dobbs. Yo, Sam, been here since week 1. Shout out to you, Cam. Yeah, we are 17 Sundays in. Appreciate everyone who's tuned in multiple times throughout the season. Appreciate everyone who's here for the very first time, too. Shout out to everyone in this live. Seriously, appreciate you guys all so much. Look forward to these lives all week, all year. Always get a little sad towards the end of the season, man, that it's starting to come to a close. We're going to be in draft season before we know it, though. We'll be live next week, too, to talk through week 18. No start sits, but I am in the chip. Appreciate the help, man. Appreciate you as well. Bobby, Sam, please. Bobby, I got you. I got you guys. Really need some help. Colts, Dolphins, or Eagles defense? Yeah, so you got 3 good options here for the defenses. Let's talk through the defenses quick, because defenses in fantasy football definitely can win championships this week. Among all weeks with this weather, some of these matchups. So the Dolphins ranked number 1 defensively. I think I would go the Dolphins over everybody. The Colts are definitely high up there too. I do like the Eagles versus the Cowboys, but a little bit less. The Dolphins are in a game against Dorian Thompson-Robinson with up to 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts. There's no David Njoku. I think you go Dolphins. And the Dolphins actually, they have something to play for still. Like, they're still technically in the playoff hunt. The Miami Dolphins are not out yet. If they win, they're up to a 16% chance to make the playoffs. They're still alive. And if they lose, they're done. Same thing with the Colts. The Colts, if they win, they're up to 22% chance to make the playoffs. If they lose, they're done. The Bengals right now sit at a 14% chance, and I believe they need the Colts to lose. Tyreek Hill with Tua out or Shakir? Oh, man, I mean, these Tyreek questions are not easy. They're really not easy. You got Tua out, you got Tyler Huntley in, and you got 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts on top of that. Like, basically just eliminating any big downfield Tyreek play. But then Shakir's in a similar weather game. I think I would go Tyreek over Shakir. I think I would go Kendra over Blackshear. I don't feel good about Blackshear at all. Neighbors, HN or Myers? Hawkinson or Chig. Yeah, we've had this Hawkinson or Chig thing come up multiple times. I got to make that same call. So I talked about it earlier in the live myself too, before I even saw it in the comments. I'm going Hawkinson over Chig in my league because I'm already projected to win by a lot. So I'm playing it safe. But if you're projected to lose or in a close matchup, I think I actually would go Chig. I like Chig a lot today. And he does project better. Jacoby Myers over Madison. I think that's fine. Start Neighbors, HN, or Myers in a PPR league. It's probably HN here still. Neighbors, HN, or Myers. And again, I do like the strategy of attacking these dome games today. But yeah, it's HN. It's HN over these two guys, especially in PPR. I'm playing Downs over Madison. I need to have one good pick against the spread for my league. You have one. Yeah, honestly, I think when we were looking through all the games, I think my favorite one was the Raiders, -2. The Saints are only 2-point underdogs with Spencer Rattler throwing to his top receiver of Marquez Valdez-Scantling. No Kamara, no Taysom, no Olave, no Shaheed. I feel like the Raiders will beat the Saints in this one by more than 2. Wow, the Bucs spread is all the way up to 10 points now. That game's moved a ton. I don't hate the Cowboys +7.5 either. That feels like a lot of points to give to Kenny Pickett. But I do think that the Eagles rushing attack will have success. And yeah, so I already talked through the Hawkinson Chig one. I'm going Downs over Ford. Jennings or Breece Hall? I'm going Breece there. Addison or Adams? Oh, God. I think you kind of have to go Adams there. I do really like Addison. I do want pieces of the dome game over pieces of this game with up to 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts. But the target share has just been so good for Adams. The roll has been so good for Adams. It's not a scary matchup, really, versus the Bills. It's just the weather report's scary. I think I would still go Adams over Addison, but it's a close call, man. I would not knock anyone for going Addison over Adams. I would knock anyone for going Addison over Tyreek Hill. I think you definitely should do that one. Downs or Thielen? Yeah, I think that one's Thielen over Downs. Better matchup for Thielen than Downs. It's a close one, though. Downs has a slightly higher ceiling. Thielen is a floor play, not really a pure ceiling play. Adams, Thielen, Reed, pick 2. I think this one's... I think it's Adams and Reed. Thielen projects a little bit better. I feel like there's an argument for this one too. You know, similar with Jordan Addison to Devontae Adams, Jaden Reed to Devontae Adams. You get a dome game in what should be a really high-scoring game environment. No Christian Watson, which is great for Jaden Reed. No Jair Alexander, which is great for Jordan Addison. Or you get Devontae Adams in a game with 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Oh, man, we're getting a report from Nick Underhill from the Saints that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is expected to have a real role today. Guys, do not start Kendre Miller. Please do not start Kendre Miller. This is such a tough call with these Bills, with these Jets and Dolphins receiver questions. Like, I really don't think it's crazy to go Reed and Thielen here. I don't think it's crazy to go Addison over Adams too. The more I think about this and talk through it, I don't think Adams is super safe. I feel much better about Adams than Garrett Wilson still. Laporta or Chig is very similar to Chig versus Hawkinson. Really similar. It's a floor ceiling decision. I don't think you're crazy at all for going like in either direction there. I think if you're trying to play it safe, though, you go Laporta. And if you're willing to risk it, you go Chig. Chig, I think, is like a better projected option. Hey, Sam, never thought I'd be asking this question, but Madison or Tyreek in PPR. And, like, I don't think this is a crazy question. We were just talking through Tyreek. We've seen 4 games with Tyreek Hill without Tua. He went under 13 points in all 3 of those games. And he's the worst weather game in a pretty bad weather week. This might be the worst weather week of the season here in the fantasy football finals. 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts in Cleveland today. Anyone got boots on the ground in Cleveland and can confirm that these wind gusts up to 51 miles an hour? I don't think you're crazy to go Madison here. I actually do think Madison's like a decent bit safer than Tyreek. Player props, yeah, I got you. We got 3 absolute smash props today. I like all of these a lot. I take every single free player prop that I give, personally as well. I'm a big believer in taking my own advice. But yeah, Bucky Irving over 88.5 rushing yards. We've seen 4 straight running backs over 100 yards versus the Panthers, including Bucky Irving himself in the last 4 games versus the Panthers. Tajay Spears over receiving yards. He's smashed this in 2 straight games. And Pollard was playing in both those games. He's out today. And then Dorian Thompson-Robinson under passing yards versus the Dolphins. Like this one a lot as well. Garendo or Brian Robinson. Man, that's a close call. Let's hop back over to the running backs. Yeah, it's Garendo over B-Rob for me. It's close. Definitely close. Hey, Sam, PPR, Pittman, Cook, or Judy for wide receiver 3? Yeah, we can't play Judy. I don't know how we possibly play Judy. If we can't play Tyreek, we definitely can't play Judy with DTR starting. Yeah, Pittman versus Cook. It's Pittman versus... Oh, that's Brandon Cooks you're saying for wide receiver 3. Yeah, it's Pittman. Definitely Pittman. Pittman or Zacchaeus, I'd go Pittman there too. Chig or Laporta. Yeah, so personally, I'm going Chig. But if you're playing it safe, you're going Laporta. Is there any world where I play Spears over JT? Nope, there's not a world there. So I'm playing Spears over almost everybody. I've told people today I'm starting Spears over Breece Hall. I'm starting Spears over Devon Achane. I'm starting him over Aaron Jones in the revenge game there. I'm starting him over James Cook. I'm not starting Spears over Josh Jacobs, Bijan, JT, Bucky, Saquon, or Jahmyr Gibbs. Nope. Do I start Adams in a rain game or Garendo Monday night? Look, with the Jets-Bills game and the Dolphins-Browns game, it's not about the rain. The rain is not that concerning. These guys are NFL professional athletes. They can play through the rain. They can throw and catch in the rain. It's the wind. There's up to 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts in this Jets-Bills game. I think that is a reasonable enough amount of wind to just straight up bench some of these guys if you have other good options. I don't think that's a crazy decision to make. Adams is probably the guy I feel the best about receiver-wise in those 2 games over Garrett Wilson, over Khalil Shakir, over Tyreek Hill, over Jerry Jeudy. Adams should still see a significant role. It feels like Aaron Rodgers knows Adams is about to retire and just peppering him with targets in the end of his career. There's some 500 reception mark he's trying to hit. Is it 500 or 5,000? Can't be 5,000. 500. But I don't think it's crazy to go Garendo. I don't. And then also Smith or Kincaid, yeah. Both these guys are in tough spots here. I'm going Jonnu over Kincaid personally. I play Chig over both of them, though, pretty easily. All comes down to this, Sam. It all comes down to this last Week 17 Sunday. We're going to be live next week, too. Of course, talk through Week 18. Week 18, a big DFS week. Always a lot to talk through Week 18. Like half the teams have something to play for, half of them don't. Feels like less than half probably will have something to play for this season. All right, we got PPR choose 2 wide receivers here. Go back to the tight ends here. I've seen some tight end questions. Adams, Brian Thomas Jr., London, Neighbors, McMillan, or Aaron Jones. Yeah, so in a spot like this, you're benching Adams. You're playing Brian Thomas Jr., you're playing London, and you're playing Aaron Jones. I go Brian Thomas Jr., London, and Aaron Jones here. I'd bench Neighbors and McMillan and Adams. I'd go BTJ, London, and Aaron Jones, yeah. I do like Aaron Jones in the revenge game. Someone asked him for QBs. Will Devontae Adams play? Yeah, Devontae Adams is playing. He was questionable this week, too. Adams was questionable, but he is going to play. Hey, Sam, Neighbors, Downs, Debo, Ridley, half PPR, have to start 3. Who are you sitting? Yeah, it's not an easy one. Yeah, I think it's between Ridley and Debo. Debo's a really tough call this week. He's obviously got the ceiling. He popped last week for 25 points, but Garendo's back. He did it 5 carries last week. I don't know if he gets 5 carries again with Grendo back, but that's not really where his points came from. Ridley in the revenge game here. I think you bench Debo. You bench Debo or Ridley. I would bench one of Ridley or Debo. I think Debo probably has a higher ceiling. So it depends what you need, ceiling or floor. I think I'd probably bench Debo though. Sit 1. Downs, Reek, Madison, please help. No, it's not unreasonable to just bench Tyreek Hill. It's not. I was just saying, Madison is safer than Tyreek today for sure. Tyreek is not safe. He does have a ceiling, but he is not safe. Trying to go back to back. Garrett Wilson, Jennings, or Addison. This one's got to be Jordan Addison. I would definitely go Jordan Addison here. Achane over Grendo. Yeah, I'm still going Achane over Grendo with 2 out. Hey, Sam, full PPR need 1. Pittman, Mooney, or Tyreek. Guys, I think I'm coming around to just benching Tyreek. A lot of Tyreek questions. He's got a double whammy today. A double whammy. We got, first of all, a bad quarterback situation. That's whammy number 1 for Tyreek. No Tua. We got Tyler Huntley in the game. And if we just ignore the weather for a second, because that's whammy number 2. We've seen 4 games this season where Tyreek Hill played without Tua. It was, I think we said weeks 4, 5. Is it 3, 4, 5, and 7? Week 3 he had 7 points. Week 4 he had 8 points. Week 5 was his best game without Tua. He had 12.9. And then in week 7 he had 2.3. 1 catch in that game. He played over 70% of snaps in all those games. And then you add whammy number 2 on top of that, where you got up to 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Guys, I think you bench Tyreek today. I think you bench Tyreek Hill. You have other decent options here with Pittman and Mooney. And between Pittman and Mooney, let's check this one out. Obviously, Pittman having Joe Flacco was massive. Mooney did fine last week too. Yeah, I think I'd lean Pittman here. Definitely a close one though. Juwan Jennings or Debo. PPR down by a lot. Yeah, I'd lean Jennings over Debo still. Sam, is Watson confirmed to be out? Jack, he is all but confirmed. There was a report this morning that he's unlikely to play from some pretty notable sources. He's not confirmed out until the 90 minutes before the game, and that is a late window game. But I'm comfortable, Jack, saying he's 99% not going to play. Do you play the Cleveland defense? Yep, I like the Browns defense today. I think they're actually pretty sneaky defense. I like the Dolphins defense more. I would play Spears over Cook. Adams, Ford, or Tracy. Yeah, that one's between Adams and Ford. I think you still go Adams over Ford. I still think Adams probably has a better chance to score than Ford does. Good morning, Sam. For the chip, Thielen or Garendo this week need points, half PPR, drop Ertz to get Chig. Also, does Dolphins D get a bump over the Colts now? Yeah, there's really not a defense I want to play more today than the Dolphins. They're playing against Dorian Thompson-Robinson in a game with 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts, in a game where they're playing a quarterback that already couldn't throw in an environment that is almost impossible to throw in at times. So yeah, I would go Dolphins over basically everybody. I do think that the Browns are a sneaky defense option this week for sure. TikTok Live subscribers, you know we're going to get to those comments by the end of the live. I see some of those coming in. We're a couple hours in, guys. We got about an hour to go. Still going to get to hundreds of starts in, so don't go anywhere. Hey, some really difficult. This feels like one of the most difficult start sits of the week with the weather reports here. And again, I try to be as careful as possible not to overreact to the weather, because it's so easy sometimes to overreact to the weather. And we don't have boots on the ground. If you guys are in these areas with boots on the ground, definitely want to hear the reports. How is the weather right now in Cleveland? How is the weather right now in Buffalo? Because from what I'm reading, borderline must benches there for Tyreek, Garrett Wilson, some of the passing games in those 2 games. Some of the passing options. Sorry, Thielen versus Garendo here in half PPR. Half PPR makes this definitely way closer. This is much closer. I honestly think in half PPR, you go Garendo here. In a PPR, I think I'd probably lean Thielen. As you go down away from PPR into half PPR and non-PPR, the running backs get a lot more appealing because they have the higher touchdown ceilings, and touchdowns matter more, even more than they already do. Yeah, it's Garenda over Thielen. And yeah, I'm playing Chig. I'm playing Chig over Ertz like pretty easily. Can we see wide receivers? Yeah, I got you. And these wide receiver lists have honestly, they've changed a lot over the course of this live, I feel like. Tyreek's still pretty high up here. I guess he's still pretty low at 22. But Devontae Adams, I'd probably move down from wide receiver 5 with that weather report in that game. I'd probably move some of these Packers receivers up. A couple different reports coming at you right now, unrelated to this week, but still interesting nonetheless. Garrett Wilson could request a trade if Aaron Rodgers is Jets QB in 25. Guys, Rodgers is not going to be the Jets QB in 2025. I don't know why people think that's so likely. I would be pretty surprised if that happened. Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins could be potential QB options for the Browns in the offseason. That I could see. That I could definitely see. Thielen or Spears? Yeah, we're not benching Spears. Guys, do not bench Spears. There's very, very, very few guys you should be benching Spears for. And that's definitely not one of them. I'm playing Spears over HA. Currently in Buffalo, almost no wind, just steady rain. We got a boots on the ground report here in Buffalo. Love to see it. Absolutely love to see the comments chipping in here. Comments all season. We break news in the comments. We got boots on the ground reports in the comments. I want a Cleveland. We need some boots on the ground in Cleveland too. What's the weather in Cleveland right now? This makes me feel honestly a little bit better about Devontae Adams. The sustained wind projection in this game too is not as bad as the Dolphins-Browns game. The sustained wind is in the 20-mile-an-hour range. Like that's below the concerning threshold. It's the wind gusts projection that's projected to be bad. It does look like it maybe gets a little windier as the game goes on. So it's possible, the wind changes. But this is an encouraging report here from Josh with boots on the ground in Buffalo. This game is in Buffalo. So it's going to be rainy, but I don't care about I'm not scared about the rain. The rain has nothing to do with my fear. Makes me feel a little bit better about Adams for sure. Drake London or Spears, I'm going Spears over London. Should I count on A.J. Brown? Lewis, yeah, you should probably count on A.J. Brown. That's been a pretty good bet over the last several years. And A.J. Brown had a 60% target share last week. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith combined for 92% of the targets last week. That is absolutely unreal. I don't think I've ever seen that between two players in the last 4 or 5 years. Hey, Sam, another question. A different league needs ceiling. Projected to lose by 41 because of Kupp and Connor. Yikes. Pick 2 for a wide receiver and a flex. Chig, Shakir, Kendre, Hill, Thielen, Downs, Madison. Wide receivers and flex here. I think you go these last 3. I think you play the last 3 here. You go Thielen, Downs, and Madison. Thielen, Downs, and Madison. Last question of the year, Sam. Sue y'all. I know it's sad, but don't worry. The fantasy season will come back better than ever. And hopefully you can end on a fantasy football championship here. Tampa Bay defense, Jags defense, or Cleveland defense. I think you go the Cleveland defense. I would go the Browns defense here over the Bucks, over the Titans, or over the Jags. That game has really bad weather and a bad quarterback situation. I do like the Browns defense a decent bit today. Cleveland weather report from Brody. From boots on the ground, Cleveland weather report here from Brody saying no rain and there's barely any wind. And the rain, I actually think the rain is supposed to be worse in this Bills game than the Cleveland game. Let me pull this up again. Yeah, there's actually not supposed to be like any rain, very much rain in this Dolphins-Browns game. The Dolphins-Browns game is also a late window game. So we got to take these boots on the ground reports for the Browns game a little bit with a grain of salt, more so than the boots on the ground reports we're getting in Buffalo. Because that game starts in, an hour and a half. The Dolphins game doesn't start for another 5.5 hours. There's only a slight rain projection in that game, but the wind is expected to get worse as we get closer to the game. But still positive to hear some boots on the ground report saying barely any wind right now from Brody there in Cleveland. Thanks for that, Brody. Appreciate that. But yeah, I still like the Browns defense. I still think there's going to be some concerning wind in that game. Bucky needs to save my fantasy. He's going to save a lot of people in fantasy, I think, today. Who's the safer play out of Brees, Myers, or Ridley? Yeah, it's probably Brees. Brees is probably the safest of those guys. Do you bench Achane due to Tua out in weather? I don't think the weather hurts Achane as much as it hurts Tyreek. It definitely, Tua being out doesn't help Achane though. But it depends who you're benching him over. I'm not like saying Achane's a must bench like I would. I'm sort of feeling like it is the case for Tyreek. AJ Brown had 60% of the targets, 6-0, last week without Jalen Hurts. If that is anywhere close to the case again, he's going to be fine for fantasy. I would go Thielen over Ridley. Currently projected to lose by 12. Pick one full PPR. Abdullah, Kendre, John McMillan. We cannot play Kendre Miller, guys. We absolutely cannot play Kendre Miller. There was a report just a few minutes ago that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is expected to have a real role for the Saints today. I mean, he's in a full-blown committee there. Cannot start Kendre Miller in a bad offense. Abdullah's startable, but I think I'd go McMillan here. Jordan Mims is inactive, and Clyde is active. Active inactive's coming out right now. Curtis Samuel is inactive. Didn't Mims go over 20% target share last week? Was it 30%? He had a massive target share last week. 28% target share. 29% target share for Mims last week. 8 targets. He's inactive. That's definitely good for Kendre Miller. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is supposed to be getting a role, supposedly. Achane or Ridley? I'm going Achane over Ridley for sure. Ryan, how we doing, man? Happy Fantasy Football Championship to you, Ryan. Happy Fantasy Football Championship Sunday morning to everybody out there. Shout out to everyone who's tuned in right now. Guys, we are running a limited time, really once a year opportunity here in the Walter Picks app to get a discounted first-year subscription for the end of the season. It will run through next season. If you've ever been on the fence about doing the Walter Picks subscription, guys, this is the time to do it. Lock it in for next season. Get up to 40% off your first year. Link is in the TikTok bio and the YouTube description. To get that, use code SAM when you sign up. That does help me out. It is the best app you can possibly find for fantasy and for props. All right, Ryan, I got you in here. Neighbors, AJ Brown, and Bowers. Man, what tight end? Did you already start a tight end? I mean, you got to start Bowers and AJ Brown. I would go Bowers and AJ Brown over Neighbors. Bad weather. Buffalo or Saints or Raiders defense? I kind of think it's the Raiders defense. The Bills defense is getting healthier, but I think I'd go the Raiders. Achane 8, then 5, then 2 without Tua. No concern. No, I got some concern for sure. And I think this is a good point to bring up. All of Achane's good games have come with Tua. That's where he's getting all the targets. But with the weather in this game, you still got to think he gets some receiving work. Achane has not been an efficient rusher, though, this season. He's been actually really inefficient in a lot of games. Last week was his first game in over 2 months, going over 4.4 yards per carry. And if it's tough to throw in this game, it's hard to see him going over 4 yards a carry. We got him projected for 3.7 yards per carry in this game. It's only projected 13.4. Yeah, I'm concerned. I'm playing Spears over him. But I'm not concerned to the point where I'm going to bench Achane for Brian Robinson or Alexander Madison or Rico Dowdle. You know, there's only so many good options at running back that I'm not going to bench Achane in the finals in a bunch of spots. Good morning, Sam. Going for back-to-back with the help of Walter Picks. Let's go. Lex will line up until Tua injury. Achane or Tracy? Achane burned me the whole time Tua was out. Yeah, we were just talking through this exact thing. I still think you got to go Achane over Tracy. Definitely a super tough call. The Dolphins do have a lot to play for still. You got to think Achane still gets at least 15 to 20 touches in this game. Abdullah or Judy? I'm going Abdullah over Judy. I want nothing to do with the Browns passing attack today. I'm taking the DTR under pass yards as one of the free player props today. Ready to win the ship. Let's go. I'm not sure who to flex between Tyreek, Mooney, it's Spears. It's Spears. Spears over Tyreek, Spears over Mooney, Spears over Neighbors, Spears over Dowdle, Spears over Achane for sure. Yep. I'll go Jordan Love over Goff, seeing that one. Hawkinson or Chig? Yeah, I got that exact same start sit in one of my leagues. I'm going Hawkinson because I'm already up by a lot, but Chig is a better ceiling option, I think. Rashad White or Tyrone Tracy. Oh man, we haven't had very many Rachaad White questions. I'm pretty nervous for Rachaad White this week. It seems like the coaching staff is upset about his fumble last week. It's obviously a good matchup for him though, so I think you probably do go Rachaad White here. Yeah, wow, close call here. Very close call. Adams, Achane, and Reed. I think I probably would go Rachaad White. Oh, this is half PPR. Full PPR is probably even more in Rachaad White's favor, I bet. Yeah, I'm going Rachaad White there. We got Adams, Achane, and Reed. I don't think you can go Reed here. I don't think you can do it. I think I would play Adams over Achane. Adams versus Reed is tough. We got that boots on the ground report in Buffalo that makes me a little less scared, saying the wind wasn't that bad. I think you go Adams. I think I've come around back to Adams. Based purely on ceiling, Neighbors or Jennings. It's Jennings. Jennings over Neighbors for ceiling. Jennings and Debo have elite ceilings against the Lions on Monday night for sure. PPR chip, start 2. Need upside because of Connor. Tyreek, Achane, Ford, Myers, Dobbs, Mooney. Please, I've been here forever. I got you, Ace. Yeah, I think you go Myers for sure. It's Myers and Achane, I think. I think you go Myers and Achane. Tyreek, I would go Myers and Achane there. Tyreek, Ford, or Thielen in flex. None are great options. I also currently have an 81 projected to win. So some wiggle room. Yeah, that does make it a little easier. I think we bench Tyreek, guys. I think we bench Tyreek today. With the quarterback situation, with the weather situation, I think Tyreek's a bench. I think he's a must bench. I'm playing Jameson. I'm fine. If you have a good option with a good quarterback without bad weather, like play them over Tyreek. That applies to Jaden Reed. That arguably applies to Romeo Dobbs and Dontavian Wicks. I think it applies to Jameson Williams and Jacoby Myers. But yeah, here I think you go Ford or Thielen. Let's do Ford versus Thielen here. Both I think have solid floors. Yeah, I think you go Thielen. I think you rock with Thielen. Is Blackshear an option in PPR over ETN? No, Blackshear is not an option. I'd go Chig over Kraft, personally. I think Kraft's a little bit safer, but I personally like Chig more. Blackshear is not an option today. I really do not want to start Blackshear in the fantasy football finals. Mike Boone is projecting ahead of him. Mike Boone has prop lines ahead of Blackshear. And I think we just got the actives and inactives. Mike Boone's prop line's at 49.5 total yards. Blackshear's total yards is at 44.5. I mean, they were close, but they're expected to split. All right, let's get some actives and inactives today. Adams, Scantling, Neighbors all active. Xavier Vet is active. What were the Panthers' actives and inactives? Do they have a third running back? Unclear to me if they activated a third running back. Or if it's just going to be Mike Boone and Blackshear. Either way, I just don't think you can start these guys. Yeah, I think it's just those two. It's Mike Boone and Blackshear. Tucker Kraft or Johnny Smith. I think I lean towards Tucker Kraft. Achane or Thielen in full PPR. I think I'd still go Achane there over Thielen. Definitely close, though. Let's actually do this one quick. Yeah, it's Achane over Thielen still. There's two games that people are speculating could get delayed today. The Titans and Jags game because of lightning, and the Panthers and Bucs game because of similar lightning storm, which I think would be good for both games. We would get better weather in both those games if there ended up being a delay. Possible those games start and then get delayed like midway through too if there's lightning. Pick one: Juwan, Kincaid, Kraft, Strange, Ertz. Thank you. Yeah, it's Kraft. Go Kraft. Go Kraft over Kincaid, Kraft over Juwan, Kraft over Strange and Ertz for sure. Boone or Kendre Miller? Oh God, man, I'd go Boone. I'm not playing Kendre Miller. You cannot play Kendre Miller. I really don't think you can play Kendre. Mims being out maybe changes that a little bit. Let me actually refresh the app here with the updated projections with some of this news. Why is Thielen so high in the wide receiver ranks? Yeah, I'll pull this up here. It's a good matchup for him versus the Bucs. Thielen has a really safe floor. He had 24 points versus the Bucs a month ago. Bryce Young's been balling. They're 10-point underdogs. With no Chuba Hubbard, too, you got to think they throw a lot in that game. I'm going Drake London over Ford. Rodgers or Flacco? Oh, gosh. Oh, man. I mean, that's a rough choice. I honestly think I'd go Penix over both. I think I probably would go Rodgers over Flacco. Addison, Devontae, or Shakir, and Happy PR. I don't want to bench Addison. I think Addison's a must start. Some must starts today, guys. Play Baker Mayfield, play Sam Darnold, play Jordan Love. There's a lot of bad weather out there. Find solace in the dome games, the Packers and Vikings game, the Raiders and Saints game. Not a bad tiebreaker today, especially for the Bills Jets game, and especially for the Dolphins Browns game. That game seems to be the most concerning weather-wise. You got to start Bucky Irvin. You got to start Tajay Spears. I like Brees. I like Orlando this week too. At wide receiver, I'm still having faith in A.J. Brown. He had a 60% target share last week. I want to start McLaurin too. I think Jordan Addison and Josh Downs are also very, very good options. No Anthony Richardson today. Adams or Downs is super close. I don't think it's crazy to go Downs, but I probably would lean Adams. We got a boots on the ground report from someone in Buffalo during this live stream saying wind wasn't that bad, at least at the moment of their reporting, about an hour from kickoff here. At tight end, I like Chig. I like Hawkinson, Laporta, Kraft, and Ferguson. I would play, if you need upside, Chig is the play. If you're looking to play it safe, I think Hawkinson and Laporta are the play. I'd go Coker over Leggett. Flacco or Bryce Young. Yeah, I'm going Bryce Young over Flacco for sure. Achane, Adams, Debo, or Spears pick two. We're playing Spears. Play Spears today. There's only a few running backs I'm playing over Spears. It's Jacobs, Bijan, JT, Bucky, Saquon, and Gibbs. That's the tier Spears is in. Who's been a top 5 running back in back-to-back weeks? Tajay Spears. Who's been over 21 points in back-to-back games. I like Thielen's. Hard to bench Jennings. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Definitely hard to bench Jennings. I would argue Jennings' ceiling is much higher than Thielen's. But yeah, here I think it's between, this is really a pick one between Neighbors. Thanks for the gift and the TikTok Live. Appreciate you. Neighbors, Achane, Adams, Debo. Not an easy call there. I don't think you can play Debo over Neighbors, Achane, or Adams. I think you kind of have to go Achane. Oh, man, Achane versus Adams. I think I'd lean Achane over Adams, but it's close. Kittle or Ferg? Not benching Kittle. Do not bench Kittle. I'm playing Chig over Johnny with the weather and the quarterback situation. No Tua and 50-plus mile-an-hour wind gusts in the Dolphins game. Eagles or Colts defense? Yeah, I like the Colts defense a lot. Ford versus Garendo. I think I would go Ford there. Wandale, Coker, or Westbrook because of CD? Oh, God, I think it's Coker here. Wide receivers, I got you the receiver list. I think Tyreek Hill is a borderline must bench today. I'm playing Spears over Garendo. The books are too scared to put out CEH anytime TD odds. Hilarious. Pickett or Flacco? Oh, God. I think I would go Pickett there. No, I lied. I would go Flacco. like I got some of the wrong matchups shown on the QBs. Rodgers or Bryce Young? Yeah, I would go with Bryce Young over Rodgers. No, Payne is in the top 10 tight ends. Payne's I think at number 10. Put the tight end ranks here. Maybe I don't have him in here. I don't know how he didn't get in here. That might have been my mistake on the live stream list. Yeah, he's tight end 11 in the Walter Picks app right now. Top 12 tight end. He played over 90% of the snaps for the Bucs in place of Cade Otton. I'm going with the Dolphins defense over every defense, guys. The Dolphins defense versus DTR with that weather. Reed has been hit or miss, but has a great matchup. I think Jennings or Thielen, though. Yeah, it's super, super close between these three guys. Great matchup for the whole Packers offense for sure. No, Christian Watson helps a lot too with some confidence there for the role for each of those receivers. But yeah, I do like Juwan Jennings against the Lions a lot too. Rico or Tracy, I do not want anything to do with Rico versus the Eagles. Basically no ceiling for Rico. Adam, I got 3 free player props for us today. I like all 3 of these a lot. This Bucky Irving one's moved a ton. It started 78.5 this week. It's probably honestly up even higher than this at this point. Over 88.5 rushing yards. I think he goes over 100 rushing yards versus the Panthers. We've seen 4 straight games with a running back going over 100 rushing yards versus the Panthers. That includes a game from Bucky Irving from 4 weeks ago. I like Spears over 22.5 receiving yards. One of the backup running backs for the Panthers or Tank Bigsby. I think it's Tank Bigsby. Spears has smashed this in back-to-back games. One of the best receiving backs in the NFL. No Tony Pollard this week. He could easily beat this in the drive. I think this should be close to like 28.5 for Spears. He's beat that line in back-to-back games too with Tony Pollard playing. And there's no Tony Pollard this week. And then I like DTR's under passing yards too. Wide receiver list, I got you. Can we please see the tight end rankings? I got you with that next. If you guys are watching live on TikTok, guys, smash the follow button. Can't see your comments unless you're following. If you're watching live on YouTube, guys, hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Do appreciate that. Ryan, I got you with the DK lineup. Spears or Garrett Wilson? Spears. Easily Spears. So I'm rocking with Spears and Bucky in my DraftKings lineup today. I'm going with the Sam Darnold double stack. Running it back here. This is the same double stack I had in my highest lineup of the season back in week 14 when they played the Falcons. Ended up coming up just short of the top 10 in the tournament that week because Josh Allen went for 60,000 points. But I'm going with Darnold stacked with Jay Jettas and Jordan Addison, and I'm bringing it back with Dontavian Wicks. I think attacking this Vikings-Packers game makes a ton of sense in DFS this week. I also think you want to try to get a piece of that Raiders-Saints game in the Dome. I like the Browns defense with where they're priced. I think the 3 guys I feel really good about value-wise on DraftKings today, Bucky Irving, Spears, Dontavian Wicks, and the Browns defense. I'm playing 2 tight ends here, which I don't usually do. There's some good differentiation that can come from that, but not my favorite thing to do. I don't love playing Spears and Chig too together in DraftKings. I might tweak this a little bit. There is a little wiggle room here. There's still like 300 salary cap left over here, but this is what I'm rocking with right now. I'll probably tweak this a tiny bit post live stream and find a different flex over Chig, or take out Bowers and find a high-end flex there. Drake London, Jennings, or Garendo? I think you go Drake London there. I'm playing Spears over Devontae Adams. I'm not playing Spears over Brian Thomas Jr., I don't think. Spears versus Brian Thomas Jr. Man, he does project better than Brian Thomas Jr. Tough call there. The matchup's obviously better for Spears. You might have to go Spears there. For the chip, pick 2, Laporte and Neighbors or Chig. Yeah, I think you play Laporte and Neighbors. If you're playing it safe, if you go Neighbors, you're shooting for the ceiling for Chig. Why is Chig so high? Yeah, I do think this is very similar to Strange from last week. Very, very similar. The difference, to some extent, is I think the role, not necessarily saying the player in the play, but the role is a bit safer for Chig. And Strange ended up fumbling and barely played after that, which was rough. But Chig is coming off a season-high snap percentage, a season-high target share. He's got 21 targets in his last 2 games. He's got a good matchup again. Today, I think he's a bit safer than Strange, but similar in the sense that he's not safe. I think the ceiling's there, but there's really a sketchy floor, I would say, still with Chig, based on the history there. So yeah, but he's high because the matchup's great and the role is projected to be great, similar to what Strange was last week. So there's definitely a lot of comparables there of a tight end coming out of nowhere and being a top 5 projected tight end. But yeah, I am rocking with Chig in multiple leagues. I'm playing Hawkinson over him in one league, despite Hawkinson projecting a little bit worse, just because I think Hawkins is a bit safer, and I'm already projected to win by a bunch in that league. I think that if you're projected by win by a lot, going with Hawkinson, Kraft makes a lot of sense today. Laporta. But if you're down by a lot, I think Chig could definitely help people come back. Pick 2, Tyreek, Garrett Wilson, Debo, PPR. You definitely play Debo here. And I think Tyreek versus Garrett Wilson's pretty close. I honestly think I'd go Garrett Wilson over Tyreek. Tyreek has a double whammy today that makes him arguably a must bench. He's got a really bad weather game with the wind there, but then also he's got Tyler Huntley starting at quarterback. Yeah, it's Garrett Wilson over Tyreek Hill today. Yeah, like I was just saying, I'm playing Hawkinson over Chig in my league because I'm already up by a lot. But I think if you're down by a lot or it's close, I don't think it's crazy to go Chig over Hawkinson. Spears or Achane, I'm going Spears. Spears or James Cook, I'm going Spears. Spears or Jacoby Myers, I'm going Spears. Spears is locked into probably his best role of the season. He played 60% of snaps last week, and Pollard played in that game. Pollard's out today. He gets the Jags. They've allowed the second most fantasy points to running backs this season. Spears has been a top 10 running back in back-to-back games. He has 4 touchdowns in his last 2 games. He's balling, man. I'm playing Bucky over Brees. It's a very short list of guys I'm playing over Spears today, and it's Gibbs, Saquon, Bucky, JT, Bijan, Jacobs, and Spears. And I got Spears and Bucky in the DraftKings lineup today. Feel pretty good about that. Sam, just want to say thank you to the GOAT getting us to the Championship Sunday. Yeah, let's go, man. If you guys are here on Championship Sunday, you got the most out of fantasy season that you could possibly get. I really hope all of us take home the ship today, but I love seeing how many people are in the live today because it means so many of you have made it to the championship, man. And that's what it's all about, man. That's what I grind all season for. Jonnu or Payne. Player props. Yeah, Ryan, let me pull up the player props for you. Jonnu Smith or Durham Payne. These are the types of questions that get me going, man, because this is not an easy, straightforward start sit, almost every week. It's obviously it's Jonnu, right? Obviously it's Jonnu. But now there's no Tua. And we got Snoop Huntley in. And guys, when Tua was out earlier this season, the Dolphins went from a good NFL offense to one of the worst offenses in the NFL. They were not able to move the ball at all. And then they're also in a game today with wind gusts over 35 miles an hour. Not great for Jonnu. And then Durham, he gets a good matchup versus the Panthers. He played over 90% of snaps last week. I still think you got to go Jonnu here. I still think it's Jonnu in a spot like this. But I'm playing Kraft and Laporta and Hawkinson and Chig over Jonnu like pretty easily, honestly. Devontae Smith or JMO PPR flex. Also, is Blackshear worth starting over Kendre? Oh, man. There's reports that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is supposed to have a role today. There's just a report that came out. Raheem Blackshear is going to start for the Panthers today. So maybe he is playable. I still don't think he's safe. I still don't think the Panthers run that much in this game as big underdogs. I think I probably would go Blackshear over Mike Boone, though, at this point. Blackshear over Kendre is a tough call to make because Mims is out. So Mims had 8 targets last week. Jordan Mims for the Saints. He had like a 29% target share. Kendre could definitely get more of that. I think Kendre's the best offensive player the Saints have. But it doesn't matter if they don't use him that way. Man. Yeah, I think I would go Kendre here. I think I would go Kendre. Jennings and Thielen both have good matchups. Jennings seems more secure with Purdy. Yeah, I don't disagree. Legette's back too. There's 4 receivers now in the mix for the Panthers. David Moore, Legette, Coker, and Thielen. Chuba being out, I think, is pretty big for the pass volume for the Panthers. But Jennings has been in a great role, ever since, really in every game that Ayuk or Debo hasn't played. He's playing almost every single snap. He's not going under 15% target shares. His target share is still like well over 20% in those games without Ayuk or Debo. He gets an amazing matchup this week. I'm fine riding with Jennings. I'm fine with it. I think it's all close. Yeah, there's a lot of teams. Spears or Evans in the flex. Oh man, that's not easy. I think it's Spears. Man, let's check this one out. Evans is the wide receiver 2 left. Yeah, it's Spears still. Spears over basically every receiver other than Jefferson. So many people cooked at running back this week. You're definitely not alone there. A lot of people started James Conner too. That was really rough. I'm playing Bryce over Flacco for sure. Guys, we have a limited time discount going on in the Walter Picks app. If you have ever been on the fence about subscribing to the Walter Picks app, now is the best possible time you could do it. An end of season discount. It'll bring you through the entire next fantasy season, all off season too. If you do the betting subscription, player prop insights for every single NFL game, every single NFL player, every single NFL market, plus NBA and MLB too, all off season. Up to 40% off if you use code Sam in the Walter Picks app. Link to that's in the YouTube description. Link to that is in the TikTok bio. Don't start Jennings because he's inconsistent. Yeah, but you're deciding between Jennings and some other inconsistent guys. I think Jennings is ultimately a ceiling play, but he's got a higher ceiling than Thielen, I would say. HN over Brees, close. It's extremely close. But yeah, I think I would go HN over Brees. Madison over Dowdle. Yep, I want nothing to do with Dowdle. Good QBs to start. Here's the QB list. I'll go to the wide receivers next. We're heading towards the TikTok subscriber only comment mode section of this live stream. Wicks or Dobbs. I lean towards Dobbs over Wicks, but I like both them a lot. I think Bryce Young is the sleeper QB this week that's left. Penix is not awful, but really you want one of Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Baker, Darnold, Jordan Love. I'm going Bryce over Flacco though, yeah. Why Love or over Goff? Yes, the Love and Sam Darnold are in a really good game environment today. Both of them did really well last time in this matchup. That was a while ago. Jordan Love, he had 31 points last time he played the Vikings back in week 4. I have JT Downs, Debo, or McMillan. Yeah, it's Downs still over Debo and McMillan. Garrett Wilson or Adam Thielen. Yeah, I lean towards Thielen there. Trust me, get the app, make your money back by the end of the next NBA season. Yeah, appreciate that, Ryan. Definitely a really good deal right now for the Walter Pick subscription that you will not get basically any other time of the year. So now's the time, man. Now is definitely the time. Aaron Jones or James Cook. Man, that was actually pretty close. We got Aaron Jones in the revenge game. Yeah, I lean Aaron Jones just slightly there. James Cook is so tough to project because he's not getting a ton of volume, but he's been so efficient. James Cook, of all guys, is near the top of the league in touchdowns. Is he at number 1 now? He's tied for first in rushing touchdowns per game. Just rushing. Not tied. He is in first. James Cook has more rushing touchdowns than Kyron Williams, than Derrick Henry, than Josh Jacobs, than Saquon Barkley, than Joe Mixon. This is on a per-game basis too. Not even just because he played more games. Really, really crazy stuff. And he has 2 receiving touchdowns too. Chig Okonkwo or Kraft? Yeah, I'm going Chig. Seeing some people ask for the wide receiver. Some really difficult wide receiver calls today with the weather. I'm seeing there is definitely some wind in this Bills-Jets game, just seeing a clip from the warm-ups. The 2 worst weather games today, in my opinion, based on the wind, it's the Jets-Bills game, which has wind gusts up to 35 miles an hour, and the Dolphins-Browns game, which has wind gusts over 40 miles an hour. I'm most concerned about the Dolphins-Browns. Coker, Hill, Dobbs, to the point where I think Hill's a must bench. I think you go Dobbs over Hill. Jay McBride, only 5 points last week, got me beat in the semis, then comes back with 30 points this week. Sam to go. Thanks for a great season. Subscriber for life. Alvin, appreciate you, man. Yeah, so rough with McBride. I had one of the free player props last week, Alvin, was McBride to score. And of course, we were 1 week too early there. Knew it was coming, though. We knew it was coming. Colts defense or Dolphins defense? Yeah, so there's not a defense I want more this week than the Dolphins defense. They get DTR today, an awful quarterback. DTR's averaging 3.8 yards per attempt. To put into perspective how bad that is, and we're looking at James Cook right now. James Cook, he's averaging 5.1 yards per carry. James Cook is averaging almost 2 times the amount of yards per carry as Dorian Thompson-Robinson's getting per pass attempt. Ridiculously bad. And he also is in a game with significant wind today. So yeah, I like the Dolphins defense a lot. I think the Browns defense is pretty sneaky too, with Tua out in that same game. Debo or Ridley, I think Debo's ceiling is just a bit higher than Ridley's. Ridley's maybe a tiny bit safer. I think I'd go Debo here. Yeah. Debo, Wilson, or Ridley. I think you play Debo and Ridley over Wilson. There's significant wind in that Bills game. DraftKings, please. Yeah, I got you the DraftKings lineup. Brees or Spears? I'm going Spears. So here's the DraftKings lineup for you today. And this is a pretty similar lineup to the lineup that went for 210 points back in week 14. My best lineup of the season. Sam Darnold double stacked with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. And running back with Dontavian Wicks. I think hitting the right Vikings Packers stacks today is probably the key to DFS with all this weather. Across the league, they're playing in a dome in what should be a really high-scoring game. I'm also going with Spears and Bucky Irving. Spears is way too underpriced on DraftKings. Going to have high ownership, but I think he'll end up being worth it versus the Jags. I really like Bucky versus the Panthers too. Those guys are both two of the free player props today. Bucky Irving over rushing yards, Spears over receiving yards. Like both those a lot. I got 2 tight ends in the lineup right now with Chig and Bowers. I think I'll probably tweak this a little bit. I do have 300 salary cap left over. I do like going with the Browns defense a lot though. In that game, they're like one of the lowest priced defenses versus the Dolphins, but there's no Tua and there's 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts in that game. Flacco or Mason Rudolph, please. God, I think it's Mason. I think it's Mason Rudolph there. Dolphins over Eagles. Yeah, I would go Dolphins over Eagles. Yep. Definitely close, but I would. Aubrey or Reichard. Oh, it's close too. I think those are the top 2 kickers. Aubrey's been so good. I think you got to go Aubrey, but it's close. Scary Terry or AJ Brown. Thank you, sir. Oh man, not an easy call here either. I think it is AJ Brown over Scary Terry, but it's close. I'm playing Spears over Aaron Jones. Yep. I'm playing Garendo over Chig. Would you start Etienne over Blackshear over Dowdle? God, I do not want to start Dowdle. I really don't want to start Dowdle. I think Dowdle probably projects better than these guys over Etienne. I honestly might go Etienne. And then Blackshear supposedly starting, but not a good spot for him. Man, I mean, it's tough to bench Dowdle in a spot like this, but like there's no ceiling for Dowdle. There's really just like no ceiling. I think you still got to go Dowdle though. It's Dowdle or Etienne. I would not play Blackshear over Dowdle. Eagles or Bucs, I'd go Eagles defense there. Thank you for the help all season. I got you, Justin. Appreciate you. A Curving Lizard 33 as well. Mooney or McMillan. This is a pretty close one too, Pam. Madison or White. I think I'd go Madison there. Let's go back to the running back ranks here. Jonnu, Hawkinson, or Okonkwo. Yeah, that one's Hawkinson or Okonkwo. Jonnu's got a really rough spot today. Blackshear's the Panthers running backs to start, though. If you have to start a Panthers running back, it's Blackshear over the other running back option there. Mike Boone. Mooney versus McMillan. Oh, yeah, they're back-to-back in the ranks here. Really tough call here. I think you go McMillan. I think you go McMillan over. Which tight end do you like more, Hawkinson or Chig? Yeah, John, this has been a frequent start-sit throughout the live, and I actually started this conversation before I even saw any of the comments because this is an exact decision I got to make in my finals matchup. And in my finals matchup, I'm going Hawkinson over Chig. I'm going Hawkinson over Chig. But I'm already up by a lot. I got over 70% chance to win. I think Hawkinson's absolutely safer than Chig. He absolutely is safer. But if it was a close matchup or I was down by a lot, I think I would go Chig. I think I would. Yeah, I think it's really, really close. I mean, Chig is a good option. He has 17 catches for 140 yards in his last 2 games. And now he gets the Jags. He's coming off a season-high snap percentage, season-high target share. I can definitely talk myself into Chig today, 100%. I play him over Jonnu with the weather there, no Tua. I'm playing Irving over Spears. I'm not benching Bucky Irving. Absolutely not for the Panthers. I think it's Mike Evans over Terry. See some people ask for wide receivers. I got you. McMillan or Ridley. I'm fine going Ridley over McMillan if you have Bucky too. I think that's reasonable. Neighbors or Downs. I think you got to go Neighbors over Downs. Garrett Wilson or Josh Downs. I'm going Downs over Garrett Wilson with the weather report there. Brock Bowers, he needs 5 catches today to beat Puka Nakua's rookie season reception record. Truly incredible. He's 10 yards away to have the most receiving yards from a rookie tight end ever, passing Mike Ditka. He needs 16 catches over the last 2 games to beat the all-time tight end reception record. Not rookie reception record, all-time tight end reception record. He's 16 receptions away from that in 2 games. He could legitimately do that. He could get 10 again. Brees, Spears. I'm playing Spears over Tracy. I'm playing Cook over Tracy. I'm playing Brees and Spears over Downs. Yeah, I think both those guys have upside for sure. Playing Achane over Ford. Rodgers trying to get to 500 TDs. It's going to Devontae. Yeah, don't hate that at all. Myers or Wilson, I'm going Myers. Ford or Garendo is really close. I think I lean towards Ford there over Garendo. London or Johnny Smith, definitely London. I'm playing Tyreek over Khalil Shakir for sure. And Tyreek's like a must bench, but it largely because of that game environment, and Shakir's in a similar game weather-wise. I do think Tyreek's a better option than Shakir. White or Tracy, I think I've leaned towards White over Tracy. I'm playing Hawkinson over Jonnu. I think Jonnu's a bench if you can bench him. Yeah, I think you do got to trust Devontae Smith to some extent today. He had over 30% target share last week. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith combined over 90% of the targets last week. Wow. Wilson, Jennings, Shakir. Yeah, I think you go Jennings and Wilson over Shakir. I'm definitely playing Garrett Wilson over Shakir. Tajay Spears or Drake London. I'm not benching Tajay Spears. Really, the only guys I'm benching Tajay Spears for are Justin Jefferson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon, Bucky, JT, Bijan, Josh Jacobs. End of list. That is the end of the list. I'm playing McMillan over Tyreek. Debo Downs and McMillan. I think this one's Downs. I think I'm going Downs over Debo. It's definitely a close call with how well Debo played. McMillan's obviously been playing great, but yeah, it's Downs. With Joe Flacco, it's massive for Downs. YouTube blog, guys. That's my time. Time is the most valuable thing we have. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future lives. We'll be live next week. Absolutely. I think I would go Thielen over Ridley for the floor. I don't think Achan's safe, but he's definitely a good start still. Classic mistake here. Name is Sam. Walter's the AI model that powers the Walter Picks app. I don't know if this is close. I probably would go Neighbors over Reed and Jennings, but definitely really close. Tyreek is not definitely even playing, but he is going to play. He's most likely playing. Thanks until next year, Big Sam. Got you, Zach. We'll be live week 18 to talk through the craziness of week 18 for DFS and props as well. Guys, have a good one. Good luck, everybody. Go take the Fantasy Football Championship. We'll be back live next week to talk through the wild week 18. Good luck, everybody.